Hey guys, welcome in, welcome in. How's everybody doing? Can you guys see me okay? Can you hear me all right? Hi Jeannie. Hey Nash. Hey Cryptic, how are you? Hi Laura. Hey, I love seeing familiar names and familiar faces. That makes me so happy. Let me know, are you guys able to see everything okay? You can hear me all right? Okay, good. Thank you so much. Hey Sierra, how are you? Hey. Hey, okay, so guys, as you guys know, things have been really, really crazy ever since we kind of started to identify this pattern. And this pattern, the more that we look at the data, the more that we're sure that this is what's happening. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start out a little bit and talk to you guys about some of the patterns that we're observing and some of the ways that we have been able to come up with our list. And we're going to go through that list too, because guys, it is so much more serious than we've even begun to talk about. I know that it's been covered a little bit, some of the locations, but guys, there's a link here that we have to discuss to a certain man who lives on a certain island. Well, you know, not just there, but a very, very serious connection that I think is really, really worth us talking about in detail. And it's important. And I'm like, you remember how Barron said that people would only need the edge of their seat? Guys, I'm like, I hope there's room for two, because ever since I identified the locations where these meetups are happening with the Adelsons, it has been a lot of diving into the research, and it has been a lot of recognizing the pattern and seeing it play out in real time. So we're going to make sure that we go through that today. We're not going to be on here for too long. It's going to be, not that long of a stream. As you guys know, I always count on you to let me know when it is that Miss Candace is going. And then as soon as we get that notification, we're going to wrap it up and we'll all head over there, because I do not want to miss this. I do get the feeling that some of these connections are starting to make a difference. And because of that, it's time to put on the gas. It really feels like, guys, it is time to put on the gas. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to talk to you guys about these potential, alleged, hypothetical, theoretical trafficking locations. So if you guys would do me the biggest favor ever, can you guys do me a favor? Can you hit the like button? And if you haven't already, if you want to subscribe, that would be so awesome. We do a lot of research around here. We find out a lot of information around here. And as you guys know, we've got them on the ropes, so no stopping now. Also, hitting the like is super important right now in particular, because I get the feeling that this video is going to be one that they don't want people to see. So the more videos the more likes that it gets, then the more that other people have the opportunity to see it. And I think it's really important. So let's buckle up, because today we are going to map the dark corridors of the modern American sky, okay? Forget the things that you've been thinking about borders. Forget commercial TSA lines. What we're doing is we're tracing the ghost fleets of domestic weapons transportation, airport by airport and leg by leg, okay? So what we have seen and observed over the past several years, but ultimately the months leading up to Charlie Kirk's passing, that has given us a little bit of a clue as to where these folks are going, what their intentions are, and where exactly it is that they're all meeting up. I know that a few people were thinking that they were just meeting up in Las Vegas. Guys, it's not just Las Vegas. And just to make sure that I can clarify for everybody, Las Vegas is a hub where a lot of transportation does happen. However, I think it's really important to clarify that these folks were not just meeting up in Las Vegas. However, even if they were, something to think about is that at that time, Turning Point did not have an actual hub in Las Vegas. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let me go ahead, and I'm going to be adding stuff to the stage throughout, but I think it'll give you guys a little bit of an idea about what exactly it is that we're talking about here and why exactly it is that this is so much darker. Now, I'm not going to bury the lead for you guys, because Hanscom Field, which is outside of Boston, it's important to our story. it is important to our story. And I hope you guys can see exactly why. Now, I'm not able to read the name of the person on the screen. I hope that you guys are. But our island boy in particular, I get the feeling that we are getting very, very close to a connection here that we can see with our eyes, identify, and even track. This location here, Hanscom Field outside of Boston, this is one of our locations where these turning point aircraft were meeting up with the Adelson aircraft. And as we start to look further and further into those potential connections, I think you guys will really, really see what it is that I'm talking about. But first things first, let me go ahead and we're going to do a little bit of contemporaneous ADSB tracking because I do think that it's really helpful when we're looking at stuff like this. So let's see. Hold, please. Okay, hang on just a sec. So when we look at ADSB data, we are able to see and observe live flight tracking, but also historical flight tracking. As in, we can see where certain planes went on other days and times, going back all the way to, I found very reliable data going back, about 10 years on this site in particular, but it is very, very specific. Now, this website, it's not super easy to manage, but I'll talk you guys through it as we go. But this is just an example of what we see and what we would expect to see as a flight path, right? As you can see on the screen, this is an image of, let's see, October 14th, and that's right exactly in some of the time that we're going to talk about today. I think that that is going to really show you guys and kind of exemplify what it is that I mean by a pattern that happens to be the same pattern that we would see in international weapons trafficking. I'm saying that word one time, but I'm not going to say it again, okay? So I hope that everybody caught it. So when we're looking at a flight path like this one, we're able to see where a couple planes, however many that we want to add to our screen and however many we want to track along with, where they were at on a certain day at a certain time. And we can get really, really close in on the data. For example, we can take a look. So if we want to see where someone went exactly, well, now we can see that a plane, this plane in particular, and let's take a look at which one this one is. So this is our Mike plane. That's our little guy. This has been the one that's the Roadrunner. This is the one that has been zooming all around the country in these strange ways. On this day, on 10/14, at some point, they went to Washington Dulles. But we can really get very specific, which is why I love so much this particular website, because we can see that they actually went specifically, if you look here, to Atlantic Aviation. We can also select and see exactly the times that they arrived and exactly the times that they departed. I know that can be like a little bit hard to, track along with, so I'm going to walk you guys through it, no worries. But just so you know, that's the reason why I'm such a fan of this particular site. Not that there aren't other good ones, there definitely are, but realistically, guys, if we're talking about any kind of smuggling, transportation, etc., then we want to be able to get specific because that's how we can make sure that we can see the actual pattern, okay? Now, starting in New England, actually, which is not, this is Dulles, but starting in New England, I want to talk to you guys about the hub and spoke method of weapons running, okay, of gun running. If you take a look at the screen right now, you can see a number of trips up to New England. Now, New England is somewhere that is an identified corridor of this smuggling pipeline, right? But it doesn't mean that when you go and pick up, I don't know, say you pick up a cargo shipment of, 50, 100 units. When you pick them up, you're not going to just take them directly there back to your house. That doesn't make any sense. It's too much travel. It starts to look unusual. It starts to look uncommon. And that's how you get caught. So if you're smart, then you need to stage those cargo shipments somewhere. And that is where the hub comes in. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to use, let's see. And like we are working on becoming better at actual live streaming, right? Usually I'm like, I give myself a little bit of time, but that's okay. We're in the meantime going to find our little map here because I thought there was a really good one for kind of showing what it is that we're talking about. Let's see. Hold, please. There we go. Okay. Thanks for being patient, guys. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the spoke and hub method for transportation. Does that make sense? So when you are trying to move a large volume of illegal shipments across the world, you are not going to simply fly from point A to point B, right? That does not make any sense. What you're going to do is you're going to create a hub. That hub is going to be where you stage all of those items before they head overseas. Otherwise, if you go ahead and pick something up, in a major airport and you stage it there and you leave it there, well, think about that for a second, guys. That's exactly the way that you would get yourself caught, right? That is exactly the way that people are going to get themselves caught. And so realistically, what you want to do is you'd want to identify a couple airports where you can have a lot of privacy. Now, that might be because you have managed to pay someone off. It might be because you own a private hangar there. It might be because you've rented one. There's a variety of reasons why, that might be the most beneficial way to go about it. But realistically speaking, once you have everything collected at the hub, you still have to get it across the pond, right? So these hubs are something that we see as kind of an initial staging area. That's how I think of it. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with, Amazon. Let's think of like a large company that does a lot of logistics and transportation. This is basically very similar to what we see from a place like Amazon. So think about how you order a package, and Amazon has nothing to do with this story in particular, just to be clear, but I think they're a good example that people kind of are familiar with. So if you order something from Amazon, right? Now there's a variety of amount of time that it takes for it to get to you, to your front door. But if you order something from Japan, say you order an item that happens to come from Japan. Well, obviously that item is going to take a very long time to come all the way from Japan, right? So generally speaking, what will happen is Amazon will say, you know what, people really love this item from Japan, but it comes from Japan. Well, why don't we go ahead and order like 100 of these? We'll bring them to our warehouse in LA, or wherever. And then as soon as someone orders it, then we're going to send it off directly to them. Well, now you've just cut off basically like a month of shipping time, right? That's something that we see with normal logistics. So I just want you guys to keep in your frame of mind that a lot of these cargo shipments, they do make use of a similar transportation pattern. But the longer that you are in transport, as in the longer that you're in the air or the longer that you're on the ground somewhere that's not secure, then the more opportunity there is for individuals to get you in trouble, right? And so because this is something that would be taking place illegally, then you have to be really careful and mindful of that. So as we went through kind of our flights, I want you guys to have this in the back of your mind, because this is what we're talking about when we are talking about the actual ways that this could realistically be conducted. So hang on just a second. Okay. I like how they have the little airplane and the little van. I was like, that's a good picture. That kind of makes it make sense. But as we're going through all of these different flights, guys, it got to be to a point where we were seeing stuff that was just so common. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about were the different hubs. So the Consolidation hub, like I'm telling you guys, that Amazon warehouse that's there, in LA or wherever. Well, when that happens along the like Northern Gateway, which is a specific pipeline, then generally speaking, they have to pick a spot. And for this particular loop that we're about to go over, well, that one happened to be in New England, okay, in New England. And the location that we've identified is exactly the one that was used by Mr. Einstein in order to move whatever it was that he was moving. Now, I am not saying that I think that Turning Point necessarily could be involved with those same exact activities that Mr. Einstein was involved with. I'm not saying that, just to be clear. But guys, that airport in particular, it is the ultimate billionaire privacy airport. Okay. It's the ultimate shield for the elite. So as you guys saw before, this particular airport, let's see here. Yeah. So this particular airport, this is one that was being utilized, and they actually just identified in 2026. This is a location where he was staging his discrete trips out of throughout the final years of his life, freedom, before he was taken out. So, why is it that they would choose an airport like that one? Well, it's simple. Like, there's no public crowds. There's tarmac isolation. There's these private FBOs. And what that means is that it's not like you and I are just going to fly through there very often. Really, it is the kind of place where the billionaires, they run through it. It's one of those actual logistical locations where these private FBOs, those function like Delta, like Southwest. You and I, we're going on a Delta flight, we're going on Southwest, we're going on Spirit, whatever, right? Billionaires, they have absolutely no interest in interacting with the public. And what that means is that they are afforded this privacy that comes with going to these private FBOs. But rather than it being Delta, it's Air Adelson or Air other, insert billionaire here, right? It's Air Teal. So it's really, really only for them. This is very, very private. Now, can other people come? Yeah, technically, sure. However, realistically, there's not going to be the public. And that means that there's a lot of control in that area. And that's what they appreciate, right? So you can literally step right out of a vehicle into a private jet cabin. No TSA, there's no public eye. There is just pure unobstructed transit. And you can do whatever you want there without any prying eyes watching you. So think about that, right? Now, there is another hub nearby that we've identified, and it's Boston Logan. Now, that's the main airport in Boston. That's like the main commercial airport in Boston. So when I was looking at some of the flights that were taking place there, I thought to myself, well, why is it that they would go to such a crowded location? That doesn't make a ton of sense. However, Boston Logan is not just one giant airport. It's not just, it is, but it has all these different sections. It has all these satellites, which means that if you want to, you can pull way, way, way off the main drag, just like they did at Duncan Aviation at Provo. Now, there is a great deal of privacy afforded to these private FBOs, and that means that if you wanted to stage stuff out of there, you absolutely could. You wouldn't want to stay for a ton of time. That's not the sort of place that you would want to have, your shipments located at for weeks, right? Because the ATF is supposed to be tracking these locations really, really well. But we all know that everything has a price, and especially I'll share that the new FAA head that was installed during this administration, guys, of course, they are not folks that have a ton of experience in the FAA, in the ATF, in the places, and the actual groups that would be providing normal oversight. It's just not what happens. These are people that would be potentially flexible, right? Then, from there, if you have a spot where you're meeting up, a rendezvous, well, where is it that you're actually getting your weapons from? There's a few different airports that we identified that are located in South Florida, Miami area specifically. And if you guys know like your aviation lore, you'll know that most of those airports, many of those airports, they really do have a very specific profile, and they have a lot of history to them too, okay? So when we're talking about South Florida, I wanted to go over a couple of the top ones that we have seen, that we'll see, and just so you guys have a little bit of a background on it, so that when I'm showing you guys these actual flights, you will feel that same shocked feeling that I felt when I would, close in on where it is that we're looking and say, oh my gosh, well, look at that. What a surprise. There they are again at that exact airport. So let's talk about them really quick, and then we're going to get into the data, and I'm going to have you guys track along what I feel is a loop. What I feel is a loop, a run. I like a run. I think that sounds better. A run of here's us, going out to the spokes. Here's us collecting at the hub. Here's us rendezvousing with we know who, right? And then here's them heading off. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of, went into it. And then that way, like I said, once you are familiar with what we're talking about and where these locations are, you're going to be like, holy moly, that was the feeling that I had. Okay, so let's talk about Miami, South Florida, and their actual trafficking that they have a extensive history of, guys. It is an extensive history. And I think that it's relevant at this point to our story to discuss it like in detail. Also, thank you guys so much for being so patient with me. I saw somebody in the chat say that I seem like I'm down. Thank you. I've been battling a migraine for several days. Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens. It's very rare, but when it gets hot out, that tends to happen. I'm fine. I'm fine. But, you know, I tend to just have to be like a little bit more chill because you have to take medication for migraine. And so sadly, but trust me, guys, nothing excites me more than aviation data, and nothing excites me more than the idea that we might have gotten somewhere in this. So I'm like, yeah, we soldier on, and we're getting closer than I think that we've ever been. And this is part of the reason why. So this is an example of what I would call a normal pattern that we would kind of see to the start to our loop. It's just a normal little example of what is the start that we would see to our pattern, right? Now, this is our person who is on the turning point plane. And for some reason, they have decided that they need to make a lot of these little trips. Now, we know that South Florida is in particular somewhere where, yeah, maybe there's a reason that they go there. Maybe there is a really good and legitimate reason that they're going there. That's fine. We can understand that fundraising does take place in South Florida. But when we get into the details of these specific airports that are happening, we're not talking about flying into Miami International. We're not talking about flying into West Palm Beach, where the actual Mar-a-Lago location is. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about specific. I mean, if you wanted me to create a list, like I said, I went through the top 20 most commonly transited airports in this country. And imagine my surprise when 17 of them were on there. 17, guys. 17 of the top most frequently transported airports in this country are the ones that they're visiting. So let's start with South Florida, because that is kind of where we have, they call it like the Caribbean weapons funnel. Now, guys, who is it that we heard about? Who is it that we heard about that might want to transport something to the Caribbean? Who is it? Does anyone remember? I'm like, can I look in the chat, guys? Do you guys recall who it is that we know from South Florida, or from the Caribbean, excuse me, who is very interested in maybe procurement of a certain item? Maybe it is that is going to be, I don't know, interested in procuring 50,000 units. I think that they have an extensive history, guys. I'm like, do you guys know who we're talking about? Okay, let's think about this for a second. Oh, thank you so much. I knew that I would see it in the chat. Oh, here we go. Exactly. Derry Derpet, obsessed with your username. Thank you. Well, yes, we have heard that. We have heard that name in this story, haven't we? So it does occur to me that if we were going to see that person actually be successful at this endeavor, well, where might it is that they go? Where might they go in order to actually go ahead and succeed? Where might they go? Let's think about that for a second when we're thinking about where it is that these folks were also going. Isn't that fascinating? What a funny coincidence. Okay, so let's talk about the Caribbean weapons funnel. So to the south, this is the most heavily monitored airspace on the planet. And that is for a very good reason. It's not because of hurricanes, guys. It's not because of wind and rain. No. It's being monitored by the ATF, by the FAA, because it is the premier launch pad for the Caribbean and South America as far as arms and weapons transportation. See, the federal task force, it actually has a home base at this Miami Opa-locka, which is one of the locations that we will be going through right here, because it is so flooded with private charter jets. There is actual task force dedication to this area specifically because it is so frequently being used as a transportation hub. The problem is, guys, the federal task force, well, who oversees that? Let's think for a moment. Who oversees that? The ATF, right? And as we know, the ATF has had some major shakeups during this administration that mean that monitoring, that they had an entire system in place and based there. Well, I hope that it's still just as well done. I hope that it is still just as monitored as it's ever been, because this has been one of the actual premier locations where those items are moved to the Caribbean and to South America. I think we do know someone else in this story who has a little of, who has a relationship with South America, don't we? What was his name? No one's really seen or heard from him before or after. What was his name, guys? I feel like I keep hearing him referred to as Brown Shirt Guy. Remind me for a second. Who is it that we have seen traveling back and forth to South America? Now, this is not an allegation of wrongdoing from Victor or for our friend there, Mr. Brown Shirt Guy. Oh my gosh, someone, thank you. There it is. Okay, thank you so much. Yay. Okay, you guys are helping me so much. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, there is somebody who tends to, I think they jetted right out of town just back to South America, right? Well, it is interesting to me, and I think it's noteworthy that is where those items move from. I think that it is at least worth us keeping in mind. The next one is Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport and Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. Those are kind of like, I think of it as like corporate chaos, okay? Those airports in particular, they handle like short haul private hops to the Bahamas. They handle them back and forth to the Caribbean, different parts of the Caribbean. And then Fort Lauderdale actually handles more like volume hub. Now, what we see is that their checkpoints, they consistently rank in TSA's top 10 nationwide for weapons interception. So those are two of the top 10 nationwide for weapons interception. It is a perpetual hot zone for straw purchases. That is what happens there. That is what they are concerned about there. And it's interesting to me that those airports just seem to come up over and over and over again. Now, the next one is Naples. That is going to be on the other side of Florida. It's like on the, on the Gulf side. However, it's the ultimate like Southwest Florida like blind spot, because what it has is a lot of like wealthy individuals. It's relatively quiet. It's right at the end of Alligator Alley, which is the I-75 corridor, and that is one that has been historically associated with smuggling, right? It's kind of known for that, there have been a lot of busts where they've seen stockpile weapons in nearby storage facilities, and then they get loaded directly onto private jets and jet off. It is in particular one that is done in a way that I think very much aligns with what we might see with some of that more high-end transportation that we've been thinking about. And one that I always want us to keep in the back of our mind, guys, Tri-County Airport, which is located over in like all the way in the Panhandle. That Tri-County Airport, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can show it. Oh, I wonder if I can, hold on. So that one is right here. I hope you guys can see that. Let me close in a little bit. I'm like, it will become very important to our story. It's right around here. And so this little back roads, location, it is actually a location where I think if I show you guys an image of it, you'll kind of see what it is that I'm saying about the fact that this airport is not exactly one where I would think the Turning Point does a ton of fundraising. That's that right there. That is Tri-County Airport in Florida. Now, this airport in particular, the reason I wanted to show it to you guys from this angle, what you can see on this, guys, there's no tower. There's no air traffic control. I mean, they have a general air traffic control that is coming from a very, very far distance away. So the amount of monitoring. Now, if we're thinking about fundraising activities, this area in particular is not one with billionaires. This is not an area that has billionaires, guys. Now, there could be someone who in particular happens to live way out in the countryside in Florida, out here in the Panhandle. That's possible. But it's very interesting to me, the idea that this little tiny airport that generally handles grandma and grandpa who have their little, their little prop plane and or maybe like a farmer, someone, who is just not really out there to engage in billionaire fundraising activities, right? That's what this airport is for. This is the middle of nowhere, guys. This is absolutely the middle of nowhere. So why you need to come in at 1 o'clock in the morning and stay for 8 minutes, why it is that seems to be the best option for coming in and getting some fundraising done at 1 a.m. local time, well, that escapes me. And I hope that other people can give me an answer, because guys, I'm struggling to come up with a realistic reason why that airport is one that we saw being used for so much staging. I'm like, let me hop over and show you guys one of our examples of sometimes when that happened. I'm like, hold please. Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. So as you guys can see, this is our Turning Point plane, right? For example, this was it back in August. This is one of our August. Now, if you guys are remembering what our little spoken hub image looked like, what it was that it looked like when we were actually seeing individuals who were transporting items for a good reason. When transportation is happening at Amazon, this is the sort of thing that we're going to see, right? There is an actual hub, and then there's all these short little hops because they have to collect everything before it is transported off, right? So when we are looking for a hub, the kind of place that would have all that privacy, the kind of place that would have not many folks there not many prying eyes, this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about a spoken hub, because that is that little backwoods airport right there. Well, look at that Tri-County Airport right there, right back there in the Florida Bayou. And I'm not saying that in like a disparaging way, but the number of trips that you needed to make overnight, 1 a.m., 8-minute stop, overnight, 3 a.m., 25-minute stop, overnight, 10 p.m., 13-minute stop. Well, there's not too many individuals that are there who would really have much to say about it. And even if there were, there's definitely not many individuals who are going to be there at that time of night, even at all, because this is where we're flying in at 1 o'clock in the morning for 8 minutes. Now, when you're coming into a location like that, guys, realistically, 8 minutes is not nearly enough time to get anything done. It really, really is not. And so, unfortunately, the reason that they were doing that is going to remain kind of a little bit of a question for us. So as we are continuing to take a look at all of these specific airports, we have to start to ask the question. It really does beg the question. So all of our little Florida airports, all of our little, hub locations, were you guys staging a fundraising effort there at 1 a.m.? Is that what was happening? Also, something that I think is worth thinking about as we kind of go through these individual locations, guys, if you were picking someone up, because that was the other thing that I had tried to think of as a potential reason why someone might be heading there so often. Maybe you're picking up a donor. Maybe that's what you're doing. Well, if we take a look and we actually start to dive into it, what you'll start to see, guys, is that even on those trips to Tri-County, well, maybe you pick people up, but you never dropped them back off. It was a one-way flight. These were one-ways. See, if you had to go and pick up a billionaire in, I don't know, Chicago or whatever, and bring them to that little tiny airport there, and that was the reason why we're doing this, why didn't you give them a ride back? Because now you've got them out there in South Florida in the, at this Tri-County airport, and it doesn't seem as though you ever returned. It's a one-way. And usually run one-way, that doesn't imply that those are passengers, right? Somebody's got to get back home. So this is just what I wanted to kind of start with here is let's just take a look at, a relatively recent one, because again, as time went, they started turning up the heat and turning up the frequency. The impression that I got is once they saw, after Charlie was gone, once they saw how many individuals were very much invested in finding out what actually happened, then they decided that they needed to turn up the gas because they needed to complete the mission. That really is my impression, is that you have to complete the mission. Otherwise, what are you going to do, right? Now, some of the other locations that they were going to, and you can see it right here on the screen, is the Texas Gulf Nexus. So Tri-County, as we move west, you can think about that they went kind of between Texas and the Gulf. That's where the cartel pipelines take place. Okay, the Gulf Coast, it's called the Iron Pipeline. And some of the locations that are specifically on that top 10 and top 20 most transited, most watched, most monitored airports are going to be Baton Rouge, okay, and that is in Louisiana. That is like the intermodal bridge, and that's where Amazon goes and gets the stuff, and puts it on the truck. That's intermodal, right? So the Amazon plane comes in and they put everything on the back of the truck, right? And then they drive to the actual location. That's what I mean by intermodal. That's just the way that modern weapons trafficking works. Just think Amazon and think this is where the Amazon plane meets up with the Amazon truck, right? That is what happens at Baton Rouge. Then when we go on to Dallas, we can go into Texas, and that is Dallas Love. Okay, Dallas Love. Now think of the last time, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to Texas. Think of the last time that you actually visited Dallas Love, though. Everybody flies into Dallas Fort Worth. It is not the normal spot to go. But when you consider the fact that there's a bunch of airports that are there in Dallas, you want to start thinking about, okay, so is that normal? Is that normal? Is that where you meet a donor? Well, Dallas Love is like kind of like a corporate airfield, but it has had one of the top 10 highest frequencies of interceptions from smugglers in the past 10 years because of this frequent corporate smuggling, method. And that is how business is done nowadays. Okay. The next one is McKinney, and that is also in Texas. So that one is nearby to Houston, I believe. Houston? I think so. Yeah. Oh, no. That one's also in Dallas. I'm sorry, as I go through geographically. So that one is actually near Dallas too, but McKinney is even more monitored because it is so frequently used by smugglers. So McKinney, that's the one that is so commonly found with items that it is considered the primary general aviation airport for smuggling in the United States. It's that commonly used. The next one is Houston Hobby. That one, in addition, that one's in Houston. And I'm just guessing, and I'm not sure. So let's see. When I think Houston, I think cartel. When I think Houston is the number one weapons transiting location in the United States. It is the number one. Well, let's see where they happen to go on this day. Oh, look at that. Well, that's Houston Hobby. That's Houston Hobby. And I'm like not kidding, guys. I wasn't even thinking necessarily that it was this, that they would go there on that day. But this is not the main airport there in Houston. It is just one of the most common for that particular endeavor. And so imagine my surprise. Okay. I'm actually surprised because I didn't even know that, on that occasion they did that one. Let's take a peek over here in South Florida. Let's see which one they happen to go to. And this one is going to be Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. Yes, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. So another one of them, right? So as we are looking through these next, I'm going to show you guys a loop right now, a loop of what we would expect to see and what we think it is that we're probably seeing at this point. And then as we are starting to look, okay, so this is one that's the most frequent. Oh, let's see, Tulsa, they have a bit of a history. I believe that they are not in the top 20. I think they're in the top 50, but okay, when I'm looking through and I'm actually evaluating the data and how realistically these individual flights could be for a good reason or could not be for a good reason, we have to think about the fact that, okay, you know what, them going to Miami, that makes sense. Now it happens to be this, major location, this major, Fort Lauderdale location, this specific airport. Okay, but that could be happenstance, right? It could be happenstance. Well, they're going to Houston Hobby. Well, that could be. Could be too. Well, Tulsa, okay. Tulsa, it's not in our top 20. So for those ones, I was not considering those as like a positive result. For me, that just felt more like, okay, could be for good reason for Tulsa. The other two, it's a little weird, but all right, let's keep going. So here's the next day. And we have our same little guy. And well, would you look at that? They head back to South Florida. And as we look here, oh, here's Boca Raton. Okay. Now that one is an location. I'm like, was it in the top 20? I had to segment things and see if it was top 20 or top 50. Because I'm not sure that they didn't go to any that weren't in the top 50. But let's see here. Boca Raton. Nope. That one is on our top 50. So we don't think of that as a positive, right? Like that's not necessarily going to be considered a positive result. But they had appeared in New England. Okay, interesting. That's fine. I'm not sure exactly what it is that they were doing at that time, but they were up in Maine. That's okay. We'll take that. And that's like, for example, going to be considered more of a negative result than a positive one. But we should also keep in mind that when they're going back and forth to these locations, guys, they are not just going to one or the other. They are going to each of them multiple times. Now, in modern movement of materials, we would expect that realistically speaking, guys, it doesn't make a ton of sense for them to go back and forth so often. Now, if something was happening, right? If something was happening, then at that point, we would think, okay, was there an event that was taking place? Was there an actual event that was taking place? Well, if we see an event taking place, I have been noting those to be negative. If there's a good reason for them being there, then as you guys know, it is very important that we're always ethical about the ways that we go about this. And so we are not going to sit there and make it into a location, a positive destination. It's noteworthy. Let's put it like that. It does seem that they just really spent a great deal of time going to these South Florida locations, but that might mean nothing. Now, as you guys probably know, we are tracking a ton of the aircraft that are associated with our story. it's really been this one, our Mike aircraft 582MM, which you guys, like I said, we're looking at this live right now. So you guys are totally welcome to go through and look alongside me, because I'm showing you that guys this stuff live, but I always believe in doing your own research. I always believe in making sure that the data that we have is stuff that we can share with each other. And also, I don't want to make you guys ever I would never want you guys to just believe me because I'm telling you. I want you to see what it is that I'm seeing. Do you know what I'm saying? So once I see a location, so like, for example, these ones, we could call it it's interesting. They're in South Florida. Then what we do is we go ahead and we look at the times. We can take a look at the times. So that is showing the time of the actual flight taking place. For me anyway, when I wanted to go and see if a flight seemed a little suspicious or not, then what I would do is I would take a look here and say, okay, well, they were there from 1852 all the way until 19. No. They flew in at 5. This is a 5 p.m., like 1700, right? Obviously adjusted for East Coast time, but that makes it 11 a.m., I think. So 11 a.m., but then they didn't leave until 4. So that's a 2-hour stop. Now, realistically, could they have had a meeting in that time? Yeah, they could have. It's interesting. It doesn't, but I'm not counting those as positives. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm like, oh, we're just going to count these ones because they happen to be in South Florida. Hypothetically, is that possible that they were doing something? Yeah, potentially, but that's not enough, in my opinion, for us to actually go through and say that is a positive result. So, because there's just way more of them. There's too many of them at this point to be able to say, oh yeah, that one, they're all positive. No need, because they do it all the time. Here's the next day. So the next day, they come back and they fly back to South Florida. This is our little jet. And would you take a look there? Well, gosh, it does appear that we have a couple folks in the same place. And wouldn't you know it, one of these guys, well, who is that? Who is that that's at this little location? Oh, this plane, this is N889LS. N889LS, well, that one belongs to Las Vegas Sands. Well, we know that the Las Vegas Sands, that's the ownership group of Miriam Adelson, isn't it? That's so interesting. And where is it that they are going? Where is it that both of these planes were? Here's our Mike airplane, the Turning Point one. Here is our Adelson airplane. And wouldn't you know it, that is Hanscom Airport. That's Hanscom Airport. Where is it that we've seen Hanscom Airport outside of Boston before? Where is it? Okay. All right. So when we're thinking about locations that might be of interest to individuals related to our story, let's think. Let's think for a second, guys, because realistically, well, our Island Boy went there 20 times. And the number of times that our Turning Point and Las Vegas aircraft go there, it's interesting, isn't it? So I think of that as a time when these aircraft saw each other, right? Now, obviously, they do not simultaneously, fly in like within minutes, but it's always within an hour or so. And then the big guy stays on the tarmac for a little bit. And then, we'll see where they go from here, but let's discover it together. So this is on 10/18, for example. So our little Mike aircraft has just left South Florida. I wonder where they were. We can take a quick peek. Oh, back at, was that Fort Lauderdale? Yeah, look at that, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. That's another one that we have seen on our list. Okay, all right. And again, there are 5,000 maybe at least of these kinds of airports in the country, as in the kind that like private jets tend to frequent, right? This is like, there's a ton of them. So when I'm saying that the top 10 and the top 20 were being visited so often, understand that that's like top 10 and top 20 out of 5,000. We're not talking, it's not like there's 50 of these airports in the country. And so it's like, of course they go to all 50 of them. No, there's 5,000 of them. And for some reason, they just had to stop right back over here and then go and head off to the island airport, Hanscom, right? Okay, all right. So as I start to look at that, I think, okay, well, that's a time that they happen to see each other. Something could have been pulled off of our Turning Point aircraft. Could have been, not saying it was, could have been. And then let's see from there what happens. So then we go to the next day. Oh, okay, well, both you guys left. This is them over here. So there's our 889. There's our Las Vegas Sands aircraft, and here is our turning point aircraft. Okay, all right. So they've just met up. They were at Lauren Hanscom together, and then you're taking off now. Okay, all right. Well, where is it that you're going, turning point? Let's see. Now you just yesterday went to Florida. Okay. Oh, but now you're back in Boca. All right, interesting, cool. So you also had a little stop here down Savannah in Georgia. That one is not on the list of the top 20. So I just think of that as like a potential neutral stop. Who knows what they were doing, and who knows what they're doing in any of this. But imagine my surprise. So this is this aircraft taking off, and just because of the time change, we have to move to the next day to see the completion of this flight. Does anyone have any guesses where this plane is going? Does anyone have any thoughts about where it is that this plane is going to head? This is our Las Vegas Sands aircraft. So they have just met up with our turning point aircraft. Where is it that they might go next? I'm like, any guesses from the class? Oh, well, would you look at that? I tell you guys, I'm shocked. I'm as shocked as you are, because there they are heading directly to Little Sands Land. Directly there. Straight away. And when I'm telling you guys over and over and over again, we are seeing loops like this that are taking place on, I think it's about an every 10-day-ish. I would give that an average, especially following Charlie's passing. Okay. So then we continue. I'm like, guys, that's like, we can maybe call that a loop, because we saw, the aircraft take off. We saw them, go, and we saw them jump around. We saw our turning point aircraft jump around the country, jump around to different locations, seem to maybe stage things. Maybe they had their little Amazon warehouse, they have their little Amazon warehouse, and that little Amazon warehouse happens to be the same one that it is that the most Caribbean movement happens in our country. Maybe. Okay, maybe. And that's fine. And then right after that, what is it that we see? Well, we see our very special aircraft that is located in, I think it was located in, I'm like, sorry, I need to go back to the page. Hang tight for 1 sec. Can you guys see it? Okay, good. Wait, why am I seeing this one? Oh, you can't see the map. Thank you for sending that to me. Of course, as I'm sitting there yapping about it. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Let's run it back. Is this a Baron? Well, officially, it has happened. Here we are. Okay. So when it is that we're looking at our little specific map of our aviation data, I'm like, rewind the last 5 minutes of your brain. I hope everyone grabbed a coffee. I definitely needed one. That's fine. Let's go back and let's take a little look at our loop. Okay. So when we are paying attention to our loop, right, then we have like an observational pattern that it is that we're looking for. So here we go in mid-October. This one is happening every 10 days-ish, right? Approximately 10 days. And here comes our little turning point aircraft. And what they are doing is they are heading down to South Florida, to our Fort Lauderdale Hollywood airport. That one is in our top 10 of the most frequently moved airfields. I'm like, oh my gosh, Bubba Banana, bye. That's so cute. Instead of Bubba Baron, it's Bubba Banana. That seems exactly right. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining, even though we're, it's not Miss Express, guys. We'll be okay. Okay, so here we go. Because I'm like, I get too excited. Sometimes what happens is I like get too excited into the data, and I'm like, I don't look at myself because that's terrifying. So I'm like, okay, let me just tap on the screen. I'm like, I can't even look at myself while I'm doing this, so that's okay. Here we go. I'm like, is this back? Were we already chatting about this one, this little loop in particular? I hope so. Is this the same one? Okay. Oh, here's a really good question. Okay. So does anyone know how she knows all this stuff? Yes. So great question, Chrissy. Absolutely. So for myself, when I worked on a military base, I was not working in any aviation capacity. I was working in the medical field, but a very large portion of my job was to teach young enlisted operational security. That is something that is at the top of mind in medicine. It's also something that's at the top of mind in our military just in general, and that's where that comes from. My love of aviation has to do with coming from an aviation family. Quite literally, both parents are in it and spent their entire careers in that. And then I also have family members that are current and former, and I love aviation. It's been my passion, my hobby, and it was my passion and my hobby way before September 10th happened. So I'm an enthusiast. But it is just something that, I mean, if you know, for the folks that are in the aviation community, that's kind of where my background and interest and passion is. I also do have a little bit of a cheat code because I get to just say, hey, like, hey, is this normal, to actual pilots, like, you know what I mean? So that's the nice thing about having it all in the family, and having those discussions that I've had for years. It gives you a lot of information. And so for me, that's why it's become like pretty comfortable to navigate these websites, to know what's normal, to know what's expected, to know what's not. So let me go ahead and hop back in, because now I'm like, okay, we're not clicking away from this page this time, guys. Here we go. Let's do it. So as we are looking at a loop, what I would say that I would consider this a little bit of a loop, right? So here they are in South Florida. They're in South Florida, and they went ahead and they came out of our Houston hobby, right? Our specific airport that we know is the one that is in Texas, outside of Houston, that is in our top 10. Okay. All right. Maybe they just happened to go there. Guys, don't worry about it. They just happened to go to the most, one of the top 10 in the city, Houston, which is the most transited city in the entire country. But, again, there's wealthy people there. Maybe they were going for actual legitimate purposes. That is a possibility. When I'm looking at that, I'm like, now I'm just curious. Oh, let's take a little peek. Okay. And how long were we on the ground? We were doing a little bit of fundraising. And how long of a stop is this? We could say this is, well, let's see. So it's 6:30. And I'm not converting the times in my mind at the moment. But so this is like noon, right? This is like 12:30 noon, right? And so a total of about an hour and a half. Okay. An hour and a half. So they did some fundraising or something there in Houston for an hour and a half. Okay, maybe. Sure. Now we hop over and we say, okay, and now you did a little more fundraising, didn't you? You're a little more fundraising at one of those top airports that just happens to be one of the gateways to the Caribbean for their actual transportation efforts. How long were you there in town for? Okay. All right. We could say maybe an hour. Okay. Maybe you met with somebody. Maybe you didn't. We don't know. Who could say? That is the same amount of time that it would take to have a fuel stop. It's the same amount of time it would take to do a cargo load. But who could say, really, at this point, what it is that they were doing? We don't know. And I'm like, oh, well, let's double check the times. I'm like excited about this. Okay. Yeah. That's in the afternoon and evening. So, okay. And as I have been watching this, I've thought to myself, I've tried to give every single excuse it is that I could potentially, hypothetically, theoretically come up with. That has been a big thing for me, is that I want to give them lots of opportunities to explain themselves away. And I really hope that they do, because here they go. And they went up in the morning, or excuse me, the night before, they had gone up to the Northeast. Okay. Then they had come back to South Florida. Okay. And then they had gone to Tampa. Okay. All right. Another South Florida stop. Okay. Sure. And then they headed out of town. All right. No worries. That could be totally fine and normal. Well, wouldn't you know it? Okay. So the next day they go back, they go to Denver. Okay. I don't know if Victor Marx was in town. Maybe he was doing some fundraising with them. Who knows? I know that he lives around Denver. I don't know enough about it to think of Denver as particularly good or bad. And then they come back to South Florida. A lot of fundraising happening right in that area, guys. And they go right back to our Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. And then where do they go? Imagine my surprise. Well, look at that. Here they go to meet up with our jet that belongs to the Las Vegas Sands. That would be the Adelson jet. Isn't that fascinating? Here, let's put the little label on. You guys can see it. Well, there they are. And imagine what runs through your mind when you see that that is Lawrence Hanscom Airport. Okay. All right, there you guys are at the Einstein Airport, the one that he used to use. Okay, interesting, cool. Now, you guys don't really seem to go there very often, right? It's not really a common spot. It's not a common spot for most people to go to, because again, there's Boston Logan. That's a much more normal stop. That's where we would think of people going. That's the location where people would go, right? If you're going to Boston, you go to Boston Logan. If it's you or I, we go to Boston Logan. But if you want privacy and if you want maximum privacy and the fewest eyes possible, well, it was good enough for Jeff, wasn't it? It was good enough for Jeff. Okay. So then everybody meets up there. And when I think of it being so they went back and forth to South Florida a whole bunch, and to Houston, which is another hotspot, a whole bunch. Okay. Or, they went to Houston at least one time. All right, cool. Went to Colorado. Who knows if they grabbed Victor? I'm sure they know other people in Colorado, guys. I'm sure they know other people. And they went back to Miami, and then they go and they meet up at the Einstein Airport. Okay. All right, cool. I'm sure that it's happenstance that the Las Vegas Sands aircraft is there. Okay, it's a 737, big one. That's a big plane. And that big plane, it has a ton of cargo room. It has a ton of room for putting whatever it is that you could possibly want on that plane, in their cargo hold, on the actual jet itself. And then what are we going to see next, guys? Oh, look. So now our Las Vegas Sands cargo plane, that one's going to take off. And guess where it goes? Right to Tel Aviv. Okay. All right. So when we're looking at a pathway like that, I think to myself, well, that's interesting. Now that's one single occurrence. And it's when that single occurrence starts to happen on an every 10-day basis that I start to have questions. Does that make sense? That could be random once. It's weird, but it could be random. I'm like, let me tell you about some of the loops that we were tracking. Like most recently, I'll just give you guys some of the dates because, oh, by the way, like this loop right here is not even finished. Like they still do more than that, and we'll get to that in a second. But I just wanted to let you guys know that some of these loops, it started going to every 2 weeks to 10 days in July, in the end of July. What happened in the end of July of 2025? Does anyone know? Right about this time of year last year. What is it that happened? Does anyone remember? Yeah, I do recall that a bunch of those searches were happening in Las Vegas, weren't they? So a bunch of those searches for our JDA non-employees, our JDA non-participants. So in late July, okay, somebody in Vegas thinks that Erica Franzwey, her parents, Andrew Kolvet, and Johnny Moore, somebody thinks right around that time that those folks are maybe working with JDA. Somebody thinks that in Vegas because that's what they're Googling. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So someone in Vegas is like, yeah, those people work with JDA. And then we see this uptick where this pattern goes, this loop happens that was happening about every month. Now that's pretty standard stuff when we're talking about international weapons movements. That's pretty much, like that's a pretty standard loop, right? Every month-ish, because you don't want to get caught, because you don't want the heat to get turned up. Because if you do it too often, even if the ATF is being run by somebody's buddy, even if, international observers are kind of busy with other stuff at that time, given that there was just the 12-day war, even if you have your, favorite people in office and all that good stuff, if you do it too much, if you do it too quick, too rapid, there's a real chance that somebody would start to see. And, I think about a lot of the time, I think about the fact that Charlie loved airplanes, didn't he? Charlie loved airplanes, didn't he? That was something that Candace mentioned to us a while ago, that Charlie loved airplanes. And what I'll tell you is that as someone who loves airplanes, if you start to see something weird, you can start to figure out what it is that you're seeing better than some. You can start to see, no, wait a second. And especially if they are your airplanes, right? Because hey, wait a second, you went to Tampa. I thought you guys were going to, West Palm Beach. Hey, wait a second, I thought you guys were going here. So the more often, the more frequently that you're doing this, the more the heat is on, right? And I cannot help but wonder if that may have had anything to do with the fact that, well, there was a Doge audit that was ordered on September 2nd by Charlie. Charlie thought something was funny with how money was coming into the organization, didn't he? Charlie thought that something weird was happening with the organization. He wanted to find out where the money was going, but he also wanted to find out where the money was coming from. And what I'll tell you is if I saw one of my planes, I'm like, I don't have a plane, but if I saw one of my planes doing this, or if I saw a significant increase in the amount of funding that I had, just all of a sudden out of the blue, I might start to ask some questions. I really might start to ask some questions. Because just so you guys know, this whole transportation loop, that is a very, very, very expensive endeavor. I took the 50,000 units just to estimate the overhead cost. I took 50,000 units because that is something that, according to Corby Hall, Victor Marx was in the market for, right? Victor was in the market for 50,000 units. So when I calculated out what the potential overhead was, depending on the unit, that initial investment would have had to be about $30 million, 30 to 60 on the top end, depending on the unit type. To have a smuggling, to do this, it would be about 30 to 60 million. But the ROI, you guys, the return on investment, the amount of money that you make as a result of doing this, it estimated around $650 to $1.2 billion. The amount of money that someone would make if they ran this ring. Something to think about, right? So now this is us looking at the loop because, again, it's important to keep going with it because it does keep going. So I thought to myself, okay, all right, well, there heads our jet over to the greatest ally. Okay, that makes sense. Let's keep going. Let's press on. Okay, well, now this is the next day. This is 10:21, okay? And that is going to be our turning point jets, and they're meeting up with each other. That's something that I would say normal, right? That's normal. That is something that we would see and think, okay, yeah, of course, they have to go somewhere to, attend an event or occasion. Now, it is interesting to me the fact that they still went to South Florida beforehand. They go to Dallas. Anyone have any guesses as to the airport specifically that it was that they went to? Let's see. Oh, that's Dallas Love Field. All right. So you and I not going to Dallas Love Field. No. But they are, and they go back to Tulsa. Okay. All right, cool. So that makes sense, I guess. But we put it on the list of interesting ideas. Okay. So now we have another South Florida trip. Like I said, they were fundraising like crazy in the wake of all of this. But then we have on 10/23, so they have a couple more trips here, right? I just want to make sure that we're specific. So we have a couple more trips here, and this is our little guy. So as you can see, they are pinging across the country. Now this is them going back. This is them going to Tucson, interestingly. That's interesting. They are not going to Sierra Vista for this one in particular. It's actual Tucson. See, Tucson and Sierra Vista, they're not that close. Just a quick aside. This is Tucson Airport. Down here, that's Sierra Vista. So when you're looking and you're thinking, don't worry, guys. They did go to Fort Huachuca Airport like 2 weeks before that, 3 weeks before that on October 4th, but not today. So they went to Tucson. Okay, they go to Tucson. They leave. They're pinging across the country, and that's what we're seeing. And then let's see the next day. Where's everybody at? Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at that? So we have our turning point aircraft, and this is 10/23. Okay. And then we have our Las Vegas Sands aircraft. Now, this is not necessarily a positive result right here. This is just them coming by. These guys, I believe that they actually leave before that happens, but I just wanted you guys to be aware that they do frequent the same areas. It's not always the same location. So when I'm actually finding this data, I'm being very specific. This is turning point heading to McKinney. Okay, this is turning point heading to McKinney. When turning point goes to McKinney, which is one of the top 5 airports for weapons movement in the country, when they're doing that, that is not me considering that as a positive result because these guys flew into Dallas Love. Now, who had just been there the night before? Do we have any hands? Who had just been there the night before? Oh, who is that? Okay. So for some reason on the 21st, our turning point airplane went to Dallas Love. Okay. Quick little flyby. Let's see how long that they were in town for. Okay. They went to Dallas Love for a couple hours. Again, not an airport that you and I are flying really into. Okay. And then for some reason they left there and everybody flies around for the day and look who heads in. Oh, okay. So now this time the Adelson's aircraft comes in and goes to Dallas Love, a place that they don't often go. And then turning point on this day decides to go to McKinney, which is a top trafficking airport, but not the same one. Okay. Fascinating. As we continue on throughout, I did add in the aircraft that seems to be used by Andrew. That's this one right here. I'm not saying that aircraft in particular seems to be one that's associated with any of this, but it's interesting, isn't it? That he made a lot of fast little trips. It wasn't his exclusive plane though, just so everybody's tracking. And then as time goes, okay, so now we've had another time when they've kind of met up, but again, our loop has already been completed. So this is still back in the staging phase, in my opinion, if that's what we're happening. And then we have our folks going to New Braunfels, which they go to a lot. That's in the top 20. I know that Barron's been really focused on New Braunfels. I'm not sure in total what it is that is happening there. It is in the top, it's in the top 20. It's in the top 20, which could be very much relevant, but I am not 100% sure that that particular location is the one that is going to be involved with any of that. It could be that it's involved with just someone lives there. Could be that, right? That's a potential. Let's see here. Let me see here. What is this? Oh, rush hour. Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anything. It could be, yes. So I'm just going to show this really quick. Potentially. That does not escape me. My thought has been that if that was what was being moved, I would really want to see really, really significant evidence of that, because it is such a delicate topic that, you know, and it's also awful to even think about. But guys, like, as we're thinking about it, I don't want to like go down that path speculatively. I don't want to go down that path without like having like a real serious piece of information that would imply that specifically that was what we were seeing, just because it is such a sensitive and delicate topic. However, it does not escape me, and please trust that myself and my fellow co-investigators, we're looking, we're watching, we are paying attention, we are making sure, you know, that if we can rule that out at all, we absolutely we need to have an indication that specifically that's what we're seeing, though, before I personally feel comfortable speculating. So that's just me. But, you know, it is something that is absolutely top of mind, and it will stay that way. Okay. Now, I wanted to just move forward a little bit here, but I just wanted to make sure that I touch base about that one. So now we have our folks that are continuing to move. Again, we already have had one kind of like cycle we saw, and then that was them taking off for the greatest ally on 1020. Now we're at 1025. So again, these are patterns that are kind of happening maybe every like, you know, 10 days-ish, right? So I'm like, okay, this is them returning from the greatest ally. Okay, all right. That's all fine. And then we have more pinging. And that's what we would expect to see at a time like this. Like we talked about before, if we're talking about our spoke and our, the spokes and our hub, then, well, gosh, it's a lot of trips to McKinney, guys. It's a lot of trips there. It's a lot of fast trips there too. It's a lot of quick little swinging by for 35 minutes on average, maybe 25 minutes. Now, when we're thinking about, could this be a refueling stop? Could that be a refueling stop? Maybe it is. If they just wanted to go from New Braunfels, they went up here to, I think this is probably Belgrade or Bozeman. Oh, Haley. Okay, my bad. So anyway, these are, you know, just locations that they're pinging out to. Those are like our satellite locations. But when we're thinking about our spoke and our hub, if we're thinking, well, maybe this is just a refuel. Maybe they're just refueling. Well, let's keep in mind where they went next. They next go over here to Chicago. If you were flying to Idaho, and then you need to refuel, you're not going all the way back to down to Dallas. Aircraft by nature, absolutely, like every time they fly the shortest possible route. There is absolutely no way on earth that you are going to fly all the way to Idaho and then stop in Dallas for any kind of refueling purposes. So just like when we're seeing that, I do not think that that is reasonable. I don't think that that's reasonable. That's not an excuse. That's not going to work as an excuse. So these aren't refuels, right? And then they seem to be going to Dallas Love a lot. Well, that's something we should kind of keep in the back of our mind. Okay. All right. Well, is it potentially possible that they're doing some kind of back and forth around the country? Well, where did they go next? Oh, okay. All right. So now this is one of the few times that they did actually bother to come into Las Vegas. One of the few times. Now, they did earlier in the year as well. But on those occasions, that was back when they were in their monthly pattern. That's when they were going like every month, right? And they were actually going to the same aircraft hangar as the one that's used by the Adelsons. They're like actually pulling up right there, right? But in this really rapid cycle one, they're going to Henderson Executive. It's 10 minutes away, maybe 15 by truck. And so I'm not saying that necessarily there were actual, you know, meetups, rendezvous happening, but yeah, did they both go to Vegas when at that time Turning Point did not have any office in Vegas? Yeah, they were. They opened their Las Vegas, Turning Point opened their Las Vegas office this year in April, March, April, like, you know, so not that long ago. Could it be a planning meeting? Maybe. Sure. It's interesting though that they don't really have a reason at this time to go there. right? There's not really any particular reason that they needed to go there, but they go. It's more to me the locations, the other locations that they're meeting up that feel like they're like a little bit more relevant to our potential hypothetical, theoretical scenario, but it's interesting. And then, of course, we know that that is where the Adelson planes are stationed. So, okay. All right, cool. Well, that's happened now. And then, let's see here. I'm like, what day was it from there? Now, everybody's crisscrossing the country. When I'm looking at the different Las Vegas Sands aircraft, they do conduct normal business. We know that, right? So, but I hope that you guys can see kind of what I'm seeing as far as the ways that these planes are behaving is kind of different depending on where it is that they're going. And that's something that we should make note of in our minds. If they're flying to DC, well, she has to go visit her employee, right? So if she's going to DC, or whomever is going to DC, I'm like, okay, they're probably just visiting their employees. Boss is coming to town, right? So, okay, that's fine. We're talking about DC. It's when they start to go to other places that we start to think, okay, well, what reason do they have to go these really, these long distances? Well, all right, here's another New York trip. This is someone coming back that we're seeing. These guys are still pinging around the country, back to our, San Antonio area, back to some of these areas up here in the in California. Less high on the list for me because California does have pretty strict regulations and stuff, but it's interesting. So as I'm watching, I hope that you guys are starting to see a little bit of what I'm talking about by a weird day versus kind of a normal day. This is kind of a normal day. All right, everybody's going here and they just go on one trip. That is normal. This is normal business travel. Look, one trip, one trip, one trip. That's normal, right? So when we're observing what it is that folks are getting up to, well, then we can pretty quickly start to see. Do you guys see the hint that's happening right here? I'm like, I need to make sure that the chat is following along with this. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. All right. So you guys see anything funny? Do you guys see anything weird? Look at this. So this is our turning point aircraft. And for some reason, they need to come in and pick somebody up. This is a 4-minute stop. A 4-minute stop. Now, I don't know what kind of fundraising one does for 4 minutes. I thought, well, okay, so 4 minutes, that's crazy. But then they fly on to Houston and then they fly back and they are in Houston overnight. So this is I think it was 11:15 p.m. I think it was 11:15. They come in at 11:15 p.m. local time, 4-minute stop in Austin, go to Houston, stay until 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go back to Austin. Now, unless there is, I'm not even going to speculate, guys, as to what potentially someone would be doing overnight. I was thinking okay, because if it were a relationship, right, or some kind of clandestine meeting of people, right, then I can understand that maybe you would go and pick them up really quick, go to Houston overnight, and then drop them off at 5 o'clock in the morning. I hope that that's not what's happening. I hope that that's not what's happening, but I'm not sure. That's the only thing that I can think of as a reason that you might do that is not related to running something, picking up cargo. But it's interesting, isn't it? So then they fly on and then, oh, look where they head back. Oh gosh, they go back to South Florida. Okay. All right. So now we're back going to South Florida. So as I'm starting to look at these locations, and we also know that in LA, there's a lot of different locations where people go, but less interesting in my opinion, because they're leaving LA. And also there is a great deal of, there is smuggling and weapons trafficking that takes place in this area. We do know that, but it is still, to me, much more normal for someone to just go to California overnight. I'm not counting that as positive. It's stuff like this where it starts to get weird. And I know that every aviation enthusiast will tell you, this is weird. This is weird. This is one of those where you're like, what were they doing? What is it that they were even doing? Where were they going? I wonder what that was up to. That is everybody would say that that's weird in the aviation community. And you'd be like, I wonder what they're doing, right? But as we're continuing to look and we're seeing that we're getting close to our 10 days out, guys, we're getting close to our 10-day expected meetup. Because at this point, by the time I got to November of last year, I was like, all right, I get the feeling that they're going to meet up with each other again. Because it's been around 10 days. I could actually work backwards from the trips of the Las Vegas Sands aircraft to overseas. I could literally work backwards at that point. I was like, okay, when were all the times that the Sands aircraft went overseas? Okay, I bet you that for the prior, 10-ish days, I bet you that I'm going to see a lot of pinging to a certain hub from our turning point plane. It became that easy to predict this pattern. The thing that keeps making me just, honestly, guys, it frustrates me because you know what I continually am seeing? This is like standard stuff that they're kind of doing. It's almost boring. And that's why I'm like, oh, that might be what it is that's happening here. It's almost boring. I'm like, yes, right. Our Fort Banana meeting, that's a standard procurement pipeline. It's standard. Like, it's like they're not even trying to hide it. It's not even creatively done at this point. I'm like, guys, yes, okay. So this is like a standard, like this is what we would see. This is very similar to what we saw for the, I'm like the white powder, do you know, I don't want to say that name on stream, but the cowboy, the Coca-Cola cowboy. This is pretty much like a lot of the same staging places that he went to and a lot of the same like flight patterns that he was showing. When we saw this happen with there was a narco bust in 2019, they pretty much were using the same exact spots. And I'm like, you guys aren't even creative. You guys aren't even using like unusual, like this isn't even that creative. It's standard. This is like SOP. And that is why, to me, a fundraising effort takes place, guys, in a very expected pattern. Fundraising, especially on this, national level, when you're doing fundraising in person, you go to an area where there would be an expected number of donors, right? That could be Texas, sure. But you're going there to wine and dine them. You're going there to meet them. You're going there to have a meeting with them, attend a conference. You are going there to have, to maybe go pick them up, even though if they are a donor to your actual organization, they probably have their own plane, right? So if they are wealthy enough to be a donor to your organization, you're courting them, they probably have their own plane. So why is it that you're going to meet them in person? Well, you're doing a very specific set of things. You are going to meet up with them in person because you guys haven't really met yet, right? You guys haven't really met yet. This is a new potential donor. We got Pierre on the line, right? And when you are potentially going to meet with Pierre, well, at that point, you might go to Pierre's city and you're going to go and meet with them. And how long does it take? Just think in your minds to the last time that you traveled somewhere to go to something, right? The last time that you traveled somewhere to go to something. Now, flying private, you and I, we're not doing that. But we can in our minds picture, okay, well, does it take at least maybe 5 minutes to get to a gate and get the door down? Okay, now we have to collect our luggage, even though we're flying private here. So it's going to be, handed to us or just put in a waiting vehicle, right? But then we have to get in the vehicle, go to the location where the donor's located, meet with them, even if it's only for 20 minutes and I'm flying a $40,000 flight to go meet with someone for 20 minutes. Okay, sure, let's go with that. I'm going to go meet with them. And then I have to get back to the airport. There was traffic involved, even if it's a 25-minute meeting. We're talking about something that, I'm like trying to be generous here. It could take an hour. Like that's being extremely generous to say that like maybe the person's even meeting them at the actual airport. Maybe they come, like that doesn't make sense. We can use common sense here and say like that's not how normal fundraising works, right? But you go to a restaurant with them, you go to their home, you go to, meet them at their building, at their office, whatever. This sort of thing takes at least an hour. So what are you doing in 25 minutes? What are you doing in 21 minutes? What are you doing in 35 minutes at 1 o'clock in the morning? What kind of fundraising is it that's taking place? And by the way, fundraising in person is done to get to know each other. You are not actually going there a million bajillion times. Once that relationship is established, are you going there? You don't have to physically pick up the check. This is 2026, 2025 for these flights. So what is it that you're picking up? What is it that you're having donated to? What is it? A serious question. What is it? What is it that you're getting? What is it that's taking 25 minutes? Even if they met you there, that would even be tight timing. But you go this often? You go this often? You're going this much? And you're going to these, even our little, I don't want to call it whole, backwoods, but here's some, I'm like, here, maybe this will be helpful. Here's an example of another airport that they went to. And I believe that this was at 10 p.m. Okay, they went to this airport here. This is Brownfield. This is also on our top 10 list. Surprise, surprise. This is the one that's in San Diego that I said, like, guys, it does, have this take place. Guys, the San Diego airport, you went to the skydiving place? That's where you went? Pacific Coast skydiving? And how long were you there? An hour, maybe an hour or 2 hours? So you're at a skydiving location for 2 hours. You can't even go skydiving in that amount of time. Please. I'm like, I beg them to be serious. That is just, it makes no sense. Now, even if you were meeting a donor, you don't go to Brownfield to meet a donor, to meet a wealthy donor. No, you're not going to inconvenience someone who lives in this area to have them drive to like this little location that is a skydiving airport. It's a municipal airfield. Like you can see this image right here, the little Goodyear. This is a fairly remote location. You think that your donor is just going to come meet you here? What are you guys doing? Are you going skydiving? Serious question. Like I am struggling to understand what else it is that you could hypothetically be doing. And then, I'm like, ooh, let me find another good one. Another good one that they went to over and over was this one in Cobb County in Georgia. It's outside of Atlanta. And this is another one that they frequent a lot. This is Cobb County Airport. Okay, now we know that Atlanta is definitely a weapons movement hub. We know that Atlanta is a weapons movement hub, but most of that weapons movement happens specifically through their main airport. This is Cobb County. This is like a little baby airport. This is a little small. You and I are generally not flying there. It's in Kennesaw, Georgia. And the location that specific aircraft is going to, by the way, guys, it's going to this. This is Aircraft Owner Trust Services, as in this random little hangar. Okay, not this side MTech, not even whatever MTech is, I'm not sure, but not this side MTech. They're going to Aircraft Owner Trust Services. I'm like, when I think to myself, what potentially that might be, when I'm thinking about what potentially what that is that's a shell company, right? That's a shell company. We have common sense here. Why did you need to go there? Well, that was another one of their little hubs for this folks. So maybe it's just a hangar that someone rented. Right? I mean, again, it's at the point now where I'm like, I need actual information and like, I need actual answers to this stuff, because otherwise it's like, I feel like they're almost thinking that they think that we're stupid, that's not normal travel. So, okay, great. You left the skydiving place or whatever. Okay. And then you did your little overnight rendezvous, your strange little, so you leave the skydiving location. Great. Yeah. And then you come here. Okay. You come here middle of the night. Cool. You're on the ground for 4 minutes. 4 minutes. This is unheard of. This is not a fuel stop. If you were going to Houston, you needed a fuel stop, you just go to Houston. You don't have to stop here. This is not worth your time. But you go for 4 minutes, which, by the way, of course, is not time to fuel or refuel. And you go in the middle of the night, and then you go to Houston for a few hours, and then you go back to Austin. What kind of fundraising are you doing exactly? I cannot help but wonder. And then you come over here and you go back to our South Florida corridor, and you go to another little airport that is one that is very commonly utilized. I'm just guessing at this point, guys. I guarantee that this is going to be another occasion. Oh, Miami Executive. Well, isn't that interesting? Miami Executive, that's where you go from there. Do you know what happens at Miami Executive? You know why that is a very famous airport? Because that is where Iran-Contra was executed out of. That's where it happened. That's where they ran Iran-Contra out of. And if you guys are not familiar with that one, fascinating story. I'm like, I need to see a documentary on it or something, because I've read all about it. But Iran-Contra was the largest weapons transportation ring that our country's ever seen. And by the way, I think the CIA was involved with that one. It's not great, guys. It's not a fun story to read about, but it's literally out of that airport. So this is why I'm saying is that, like, I almost feel insulted that they are telling us that this is just normal. Guys, everything's fine. We're not doing anything wrong. We are just fundraising. Okay. We are fundraising at 1 a.m. We're fundraising at 5 a.m. We're fundraising while we're skydiving. That's how this works, right? And we have to keep going to the same places over and over and over and over, because for whatever reason, the fundraising that we're doing, which does not happen on this frequent of a basis, it's not an everyday. You meet them once, you go to church with them, or you go to a meeting with them, or you go to a Lakers game with them, whatever, right? With your potential donor. You're trying to create this relationship. You go to lunch with them. And then what do? Well, you leave. And then when you are asking for a donation, that's taking place over the phone. They certainly are not hesitant to send an email. They'll send you a fundraising email all day long. we already know that a lot of the turning point locations that are around the United States, people have gone, and great researchers have actually gone and looked at every single location, and half of them are just a random, like, they're not an actual location. Half of them are just a random stop sign in the middle of a neighborhood. They're not even using like proper locations. So when I'm thinking about, okay, so, and they did go to Las Vegas, even though they didn't have an office there then, it's like these things start to become a little bit more and less reasonable. Hold on a second. Does anyone know if Candace is doing a show this afternoon? I'm sure she is. As soon as we hear that Candace is going to be going live, then I am going to immediately get wrapped up. You know what I mean? We're going to read super chats, of course, and then, but we'll get out of here. I'm not going to have any more like breaking information because I don't want any of you guys to miss it, and I don't want to miss it either because I get the feeling that the heat is turning up, and I am so, so, so glad. I love that she said whack-a-mole yesterday. I was like, yep, because we are popping up. And you know what? We're not going to stop. You know why? Because it's in our face, it's obvious, and the American people are not stupid. Now, we are on November 1st. Okay, cool. So now we've done our skydiving, handled. Love that for us. We have gone to our overnight rendezvous in Austin, whatever we want to call it. It's like the best possible potential information is that like the best possible option is someone's having a fling. Like that's the only, you're picking someone up 4 minutes on the tarmac and in Austin, flying to Houston, staying till 5 a.m. and then going back. I hate to say this, guys. I don't want it. Is it a booty call? That is literally the only thing that I can think of that would even make sense for like seeing a flight like that. That is the best possible justification. Now, these are all married and this is a religious organization, isn't it? I hope so. So I guess I hope that it is that. Then that's the best potential answer that I can possibly come up with, unless it's movement of weapons. Like, let's use our common sense for a second, right? Not making an allegation of wrongdoing. I'm like, allegedly, I want to roll my eyes. Okay. So here we are. And so now we've gone on a little rendezvous. We've gone down to the Iran-Contra airport. Okay, cool. What are we going to do next? Oh, okay. All right. So now we go back up the East Coast. We have done a couple more hits in Tampa. That's one of our locations. We've gone back to Miami. That's another one of our locations. Okay. Now where is it that we're headed? Let's see. Okay. Where are we going? Oh, okay. So I think a couple of us went back to, Boston. Okay. All right, Boston. Well, we know that Hanscom location, that is a location where the Island Boy used to go, and he used to frequent that one. Are we going to Hanscom? No, I don't think so. See, Hanscom's up here. As I'm like trying to make excuses for these people in my mind. Okay. I am literally trying my best to make excuses for these folks. I'm like, well, this time they're not going to the Einstein one. Yay. Like, guys, they're not doing anything wrong. Of course they're not. Of course they're not. And as I start to look in, and you start to look closer and closer and closer, and you can see, I don't know if you guys can see this super well, but just so you know, on this map, you can actually see where it is that folks are headed. This is our little turning point plane. Okay, there it is. Great. And here they are. They are on the tarmac. Okay, you can see them moving. You can see them heading down, right? And as we're thinking about it, we're watching them move all around. And is anybody else in town? Is anybody else in town? I hope not. Oh, I hope not. I really hope that no one else is going there. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's just see what it is that we're seeing. So we have, let's see. So now we've gone skydiving, a little midnight rendezvous. We've gone to Iran-Contra, and now we are going to Boston Logan. And we're going to a very specific spot in Boston Logan, which is not the main tarmac. No. We're heading off to a special little hangar, though. And it's very interesting. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait. No, this is the next day. So who is it that's coming here? Oh, so wait a second. Now, is this going to be the turning point plane, guys? Is it going to be the turning point plane going back to Boston Logan to that same little out of the way hangar? Is it going to be? Oh, I hope so, because they're the only ones who really would make sense to show up the next day, aren't they? Oh, wait a second. Oh, no. Imagine my surprise when look who it is. And by the way, just so you know, as we're adjusting for time, understand that this time means that it was literally the same day. It's just that with the time change in Zulu, that's why I'm counting it as the same day, because this is giving us a Zulu time and the Zulu date. Anyway, long story short, well, look who it is. And where is it that they're going to go? Let's see. Okay. Now they go to Hanscom. Well, okay, all right, sure. Maybe it is that they're just going to Hanscom, guys. They came in, they fly in. Okay, all right, turning point just went there. They go to the same exact hangar, which we can actually see them show up at this little private hangar, which is one that has been linked to these kind of endeavors as well, just FYI. And where is it that they head out? Where is it that they head? Oh, of course. of course, they head right back to the greatest ally, don't they? They head right back to the greatest ally. Now, that was a span of 20... No, wait, that was the 16th through the 3rd. That was just 1 month, 16th through the 3rd. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like what I'm saying here? Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Like how I'm like, it is predictable. And that's part of the reason why I'm so frustrated about this, because I'm like, you're obvious. You're obvious at this point. I can go and look and see how often those planes are going to the greatest ally and then just count backwards. I can count backwards because what happens immediately before then? Well, you've rendezvoused with Turning Point. And what has happened in the days and weeks before then? Well, Turning Point has been pinging around the country and bringing stuff back to a particular airport. And then they go and meet up with you. I'm like, guys, it is actually obvious. And it is happening over and over and over. That is an example of just one loop. Well, I guess that was 2. We kind of went through 2 today, but you guys see what I'm saying, right? Okay, this has happened. And it was happening every month while Charlie was still around. And then in the summertime, while Charlie was around and everything, kind of was heating up, I would assume, with issues and whatnot. Trump gets in. It starts about every month. And then all of a sudden we're at summertime. When we're at summertime, we're at right about this time of year last year. Right about this time of year last year, all of a sudden it goes to every 2 weeks. It goes to every 2 weeks that we're seeing that exact type of pattern. You're going to these weird little airports. You're going to strange little airports, 1 o'clock in the morning, 20 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes, sometimes 8 minutes. I don't know what kind of fundraising it is that you're doing, that you're pretending that you're doing. You go to these little airports, you stage everything back, you're fundraising, you're staging your fundraising back at whatever this, random and very secluded private hangar is, just like that, those shell company hangars. You're staging everything at some shielded shell company hangar or in the backwoods where the Coca-Cola cowboy was staging things out of, and you're pinging back and forth, and you're going to all of these locations that are all on the top 20 list. The top 20 list. That's what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, you guys go and you meet up with the Sands planes. You meet up with the Sands plane. Not the same one every time. They have a fleet. They have a fleet of, I think it's like, for their direct use, I think they have a fleet of 12, just depending on if they've sold the latest one or not. There's specific ones. There's maybe 4 of them that seem to be the ones that are being used because you're smart enough that you don't want to get caught, right? So you have to use a different one of your fleet every time. But unfortunately, Turning Point, you guys are not that smart. Sorry, you're just not. You use your same little plane and you ping and you fundraise. You fundraise for 2 weeks straight. Boom, 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 boom. And then you go and you link up with the Sands plane, with one of the Sands planes, one of the big planes that can go and take all of that stuff that you have, right? Whatever it is, all that fundraising that you have gathered from all these various locations. And then you meet up with them at either the Einstein airport or you meet up with them at their specific airport. And where do they go? Where do they go? You meet up with them at their hangar, at their specific hangar. And then where do they go? They go straight to the ally. Over and over and over and over. Now, maybe there is a good reason that this is happening. Maybe there's a good and legitimate reason that this is happening. Maybe they're doing, I don't know, some sort of joint fundraising effort. I don't know. But I have not heard anything about them doing that. I have not. And I also would struggle to think of why they would be visiting each other and meeting up with each other like this if this is about them having a joint Las Vegas endeavor. Right? We know that they opened up that Las Vegas office in end of March, April, right in there. But even going back to July, even going back to February of last year, that's what's happening. Well, okay, maybe that explains Vegas. Maybe it could. Does it explain the fact that you're rendezvousing at Van Nuys? Does that explain that, which is where the Hollywood mob runs itself out of, right? Does it explain why you're going to these random little airports on the West Coast? Okay, Van Nuys. Okay, that's where the Hollywood mob runs out of. That's where they run all of their trafficking out of. Does it explain why you're going to the Browns airfield, though? Does that explain why you go to Browns? Are you going skydiving? Or is it just maybe that it's relevant, the fact that that is where the actual tunnel that runs to Tijuana, that's where it comes out of? Maybe that has some relevance, why you decided to go skydiving for a couple hours or whatever at the skydiving hangar out there on Brown Field. And then you go to Austin for a couple minutes. Got to do something, got to do some kind of fundraising. And then you go to Houston, got to do some kind of fundraising there, even though these are literally some of the most frequently transported airports. You're going to go back to South Florida. Don't forget that one. And then you go and meet up with them at the Einstein Airport, and they pick up whatever it is that they're picking up, and then they fly on to the greatest ally. And the part that makes me the sickest, guys, is after Charlie was gone, think about the fact that it got more frequent. Think about that. While the cat is away, the mouse will play. Like, that's what it feels like to me, is that somebody decided, like, I'm like, let's just speak hypothetically, because this is my biggest concern, that this is what this is. I'm like, I pray that this is not what this is. Well, my concern as to what this could be is that maybe you needed to get a bunch of units into the West Bank because that's your dream, right? You want to annex it. And then you wanted to go and you wanted to get all of your items to the West Bank because your dream is to do the annexation, and for some reason, hypothetically, you've talked to Victor Marx, hypothetically, and allegedly he's supposed to go find 50,000 units for you or whatever. And maybe there is a network of FFL straw buyers. This is how modern weapons transportation is done. Okay. And maybe you fly around and you pick them up from all those little buyers. You go and you fly and you pick them up from all those little buyers, and then you fly them back to the place that you're staging it. And then the wealthy people come by with a big plane that's not going to get stopped, right? That's not going to have to clear customs on the way to the greatest ally, because they basically own the greatest ally. Okay. And then all of a sudden they just take off for it over and over and over. I do not. And so now that your leader has caught on to this, your founder has caught on to this, because he's not an idiot. And because he wants to know where the money is coming from, because he's not an idiot. And also, he likes planes. And if he likes planes, he's looking. If he likes planes, he's looking to see who's on the tarmac. If he likes planes, then he's wondering where his own aircraft are. He's got a question. Where is it that, I remember you guys saying that you were going to Boca, but instead you went to Miami Executive. He knows the difference. He watches the flight. He knows what he's seeing. And he says, wait a sec, I thought you guys were going to Tampa, but instead, you went to Opa-locka, whatever. Something unusual. He says, hey, I see that there's been a huge funding, wave. Who was that? Who was it that stepped up? Maybe he doesn't like what he hears. Or maybe he just checks because something feels weird. And maybe a little bit of the cracks in the Truman Show are starting to show. Maybe that's what it is. And he goes and he takes a look and he says, wait a second, that doesn't really make sense. And then he orders a Doge audit. A Doge audit to say, where is it that some of this funding is coming from? Where is it that some of this money is coming from? Where is it that you guys got all that money? And that was September 2nd. And he says, didn't he say Justin Strife, you've got to move roles? I believe that Justin Strife moved roles at that point, if I'm not mistaken. It's an interesting other little piece of information that I received from a Turning Point Insider. I received another little interesting tidbit, and I just want to share it with you guys. I don't know what it means. This person expressed surprise to me that Blake Neff went to Provo and Andrew Kolvet did not. This is someone who's been with the organization for a very, very, very long time. And they said the weirdest thing to me was always the fact that Blake Neff went, but Andrew didn't. Blake Neff went and Andrew Kolvet didn't. I wonder why that is. I do wonder if there was some sort of gap in that friendship, if there was some sort of anything strange happened then. I would love to see more than anything those messages and stuff that come off of Andy's phone. But gosh, wouldn't you know it? He lost it the day after September 10th, didn't he? He lost it the day after. He lost his phone. And he did have I think we've kind of determined it likely was a pre-recorded episode on that day. I wonder if there was any fissure. You know what? Actually, someone made a great point in the chat that I just noticed. Yes, excellent point. Tyler Boyer, I believe, might have been used. Someone moved. Excuse me, used, please. I'm not sure. Oh, Eldab. Hi, Eldab. Hey. I'm not sure if that is. I'm not sure, and I'm gonna have to learn more about that. But I do recall that there were some high level folks that were moved around right then as a result of that, request for that Doge audit. And so I wonder how he was getting along with everyone at that time in that last week. I wonder very much what that last week was like. Because what I'll tell you guys is if I'm ordering a Doge audit on a company that is comprised of my best friends, my people, if I'm ordering an audit, do you think that went over well? Apparently, and the last little tidbit that I'll give, and then we'll get into supers just so we can make sure, because what time is Candace going? Like, I want to give one last little tidbit, but then I want to make sure that I do supers before, and also my migraine's coming back more. But it's important, so let's just discuss this really quick. I was told by a Turning Point insider, I'll protect this person's identity. I was told that in the final year-ish, kind of started 2022, in the final year-ish, people weren't allowed to talk to Charlie. Regular people that Charlie was friends with, that Charlie had known, that Charlie had worked with, that Charlie had worked side by side with, you were not allowed to talk to Charlie. His favorite assistant, his personal assistants, they were on the approved list, but there was an approved list and there was a everyone else list. And there was a short list of those individuals that were approved to even walk into his office. And all of a sudden around 2022-ish, into 2023, but really, really turning up in 2025, you weren't even allowed to talk to the man. Don't call him. It was a company culture shift. It used to be, of course, we know this. Charlie would talk to anybody. Charlie will talk to anybody. Charlie will hang with anybody. He would literally speak to quite literally anyone. This is the point of the man, right? Don't talk to him. Don't go into his office. Do not speak to him. If you need to speak with him, you will go through the proper channels. It was a corporate culture of do not speak with him. Don't even knock on that office door. And so when I try to think about what that last week might have been like for that poor man after he finds something that required an audit, especially given the fact that potentially this sort of operation may possibly, hypothetically, be happening under his nose, okay? Hypothetically be happening under his nose. Maybe. We don't know. How could we know? You know what I bet? You know what I actually bet, guys? You know what I actually bet? Hold on a second. Let me pull this one back up. I would have had some questions about this if I were Charlie. The timing, guys. Think about that. The timing. Oh my gosh. Wait, you guys didn't tell me that you're going over to Einstein Field. You guys didn't. Wait a second. Did you guys go to Einstein Field? Because I know lore about that. What I'm telling you is, as an aviation enthusiast, if I saw that my family member, my friend, my business associate, my, whatever was going to Einstein Field, I'd be like, why are you going to Einstein Field? Oh my gosh, which hangar is it that he was using? We need to go take a picture. We need to go and see this. This is like a famous piece of information in the aviation community. This is interesting. And so you think he asked, you guys are going to Einstein? Why aren't you flying into Logan? What's that about? That's like a normal thing that he would do. And yet somehow you think that man didn't notice. And if he did, that he didn't ask, where is the money coming from, by the way? Because I see here that you're going up to Einstein Field all the time. That's a little weird, isn't it? And it's kind of strange, maybe, that our potential hypothetical biggest donors ever, maybe our donors that aren't our donors, actually. Well, they're going up to Einstein Field too. Well, isn't that strange? What are you guys doing over there? Oh, yes. There's people that are not our donors, but somehow seem to be around us on a, kind of pre-prescribed basis on their way out of town. The man was not an idiot. You could think whatever you want about him. He was not stupid. And that this sort of pattern, this sort of thing, it's right there in front of your face, if you know where to look. And that's why the fact that Charlie was an aviation enthusiast, to me, feels like a big deal. It's not talked about enough. He would have noticed those Egyptian jets on the tarmac. He would have known exactly what he was seeing. Those are unusually painted jets. He would have known them when he saw them. So if he'd ever seen them before, he'd have some questions. That is an unusual airfield. These are unusual travel patterns. Why are you going to Miami Executive? Why are you going to Tri-County? These would be normal questions. And if it were happening on an every 2-week basis, just as we're starting to get more involved with Las Vegas, maybe. If you think that he didn't ask questions at that time, you're out of your mind. And so to me, it just very much makes sense, the idea that, yeah, I would have had questions too, Charlie. Okay. So let me read these supers so that we can go watch. I'm going to give myself a worse headache. Try to be calm about this stuff and upset me. Okay. I'm going to read supers though. And I thank you guys for being here with me, even though I'm, mad. But I do want to make sure that we do that because, oh my gosh, is Candace going yet? Can someone tell me, is she going yet? Hey guys, hey, I'm saying hi, but is it possible that she's not going yet? Because I feel like, what time is she going? What day is this, Wednesday? Where's Candace? Oh my gosh, not me. Every time that it gets to like this time and I haven't seen a notification, I'm like, where is she? Hello? Like, where is she? No, Candace, yeah, okay. Let me go ahead and we'll get through the supers and then I'm like, someone go stalk her Instagram, please, for me, and then tell me what time it is that she's going, because also I get stressed out if she's not going. So we have to make sure. Okay, so not yet, no news yet. Okay. I'm like, Candace, we are keeping an eye on you, sis. Better, she better be fine and healthy. Maybe she just needed a day off. It's possible. She's very pregnant, so. Okay. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to read through super so that we don't have any conflict in the time. And then also I'm hoping maybe there's a question or two in here. I'll try to be in a better mood again, guys. I get really upset when I think about that last week. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, they better explain to us what exactly that is. And I want to know what the reason is they decided not to do a Doge audit. And I want to know if they can explain to us what it is that was happening. And I want to know more than anything else what his last week was like. And it makes me sick to my stomach, the fact that apparently he was not allowed to speak with anyone. Don't go to Charlie's office. I heard that some employees that had left like right at the end, that they actually snuck and called him because they were so like, I can't believe I can't talk to him, or I'm losing my job, I need to speak to him, like to see what's going on. That's a very normal business thing to happen. The idea that they were putting him, that they were isolating him. I mean, think about the fact that Erica had cut his internet. Honey, I cut the internet. Do you guys remember that? I cut the internet. What's going on? And then his, like, literally, I heard a story about somebody who ended up leaving, was asked to leave. Okay. And they were like, I need to call, I just have to call him. And then like really like struggling with the idea that they knew that they were not allowed to call him from a company culture perspective. What was that last week like for that man? Oh, nope, not going to get mad again. Okay. Let's do this. Against better judgment. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your hard work on this, girl. Absolutely. I am so happy to be working on this. It means everything to me. It's too big of a deal. It is too big of a deal. I refuse to let them get away with this, and I refuse to let them do it under our nose and in our faces and treat us as though we're stupid. It's unacceptable, in my opinion. So thank you very much. That's very kind. Critter, hi. I love you so much. I love seeing familiar names and new names too, but it just makes me so happy. Your treasure, Anna. Don't let anyone or what anyone says get to you. You're doing what it takes. Courage, in my opinion, and it's heroic. Thank you so much, Kristen. That's so sweet. Nothing that anyone's going to say is going to stop me. I'll tell you guys that much. Nothing anyone's going to say is going to stop me. And I hope that it doesn't make anyone stop, because the American people are, fed up. But this is too important. They can't keep getting away with it. It's that simple. So thank you. Oh, Jules, I'm learning what those mean. Yay, thank you. MVP. Hey, I love that. That's so fun. That's so cute. Thank you, Fiona. That's so kind. I love that. I'm like, guys, I'm learning what the gems mean. I don't totally know. Oh, Silver Star. Thank you. I'm like, I understand that it's a gift, though. And so I really, really appreciate that. I want more than anything to be able to keep doing this with you guys. And once we solve this one, we're going to the next mystery, because there's a lot. And I really, really, truly believe that they're all part of the same story. They're all part of the same story. Butler, 9/11, like the awful thing that happened in Vegas, it's all part of the same story. And so I have every intention of that's like my dream, is to keep working on the mysteries with you guys, because it's going to take all of us, and it's too important that we figure out what's going on. And we keep working together to figure that out. So thank you. Thank you, A-Train. That's so kind. Thank you so much. Gold coin. I'm like, can I clip it? Just kidding. Just joking. But thank you. That's so sweet. Oh, thank you so much. Stay hydrated. Okay. Look it. See, it's football. I love football. I have a lot of hobbies, guys. And I have a lot of brothers too. And I feel like maybe that's the reason that I have, like, I don't know if I call them boy hobbies, but like, you know, I just love football. But I never played. I don't have like a tight spiral or anything. But I do know my spider 2Y banana. I know my, you know what I'm saying? I can identify an A gap. I just don't think I could block it, you know? So, but I love football, and just like as a fan. And then I love like aviation, which, as I understand, are like, really, these are very nerdy hobbies for women. But I do not sports bet. Thank goodness. But I can set a mean parlay. I'm not going to lie. Like, we've done it a few times. But no, I don't do it. But it is a good, you know, when you know the stuff, you're like, oh, okay, I know what's going to happen, you know. Oh my gosh, thank you, Critter. That's so kind. A membership. I love it so much. I'm so excited. Oh, I have an announcement too. So we're done with, you know, the information, all the good stuff, but I do have a fun announcement. On Friday morning. Yes, on Friday morning, I'm going to be joined with Rio. And I think, cross our fingers, we're hammering out the details. We're working on it. We are going to also be joined by Allie from Allie Top Files. And we're going to do like a girls roundtable. I don't know how to put it. It's like a, you know, but we're going to do kind of a week in review, kind of a week wrap up. Rio and I have been talking about the idea that, first of all, it is so amazing to have all different creators working together. And even if we don't like, we do not have to match 100% on what we think for our theories. We do not have to match 100% on what we think the, you know, method of execution was, or what we think the ultimate culprits are. It's not going to be that kind of talk. It's going to be more about information sharing, talking about what happened during the week. We know that it's a day that usually, so Candace is off, Baron's doing his member show, which is more in the morning, and or he takes the break on that day. And what I was thinking to myself was, and then I love coaches wrap-ups, but he does like a day in review. Thank goodness, I rely on them. You know, very much. I had to hear about what happened, but we were thinking that like there's a lot of, you know, smaller creators right here, you know, me, but you know, there's a lot of like creators that are actually working on figuring out what happened. And so my thought is, I'm like, it's going to be a meeting of the minds, a meeting of the nerds, a meeting of, you know, just different people that are looking into this as kind of like independent investigators. And we're going to do kind of like a, what happened this week? What does it mean? Is it interesting? You know, is it relevant? And we want to look at kind of how it fits into each of our working theories. It's not going to be like an argument. This is not like a debate or something, but it's just like, you know, what I thought was really interesting. So, you know how it looks like Andrew had that meeting at the White House? You know how it looked like Andrew had the meeting at the White House, and then Justin Strife was there? It occurred to me, I go, you know who else went? Marina Minas. We haven't talked about her enough, have we? I've got a lot of thoughts about her. And then, you know who else went to that? Justin Strife. Well, that's interesting too. But you know who else went? The chief legal counsel. Why was the chief legal counsel for Turning Point on their way? Oh, okay, good. Hold on, let me show this. Candace, thank goodness. Yay. Okay, here we go. Candace is coming, 6:25. Okay, perfect, amazing. We got 30 minutes. Thank goodness. I'm just glad that she's fine. That's all I care about. Thank you so much for telling me, you guys. You know, I count on I'm like, you guys are my production team. You know, thank you for letting me know. So yes, we're gonna do like kind of a little meeting of the minds, and I'm like, we'll wrap up. You know, I'm gonna wrap up right now, and we're just gonna discuss kind of the stuff that happened. I think that it's interesting, the idea that they were flying to DC with their legal counsel. And if you guys have been following along with like my personal investigation, you'll know that I'm not convinced that they were meeting. They were probably meeting BB, like probably. I want to see what JD's schedule is like. And if you guys have been following along with our investigation, you'll know where that is. So we're going to do that, and that'll be on Friday. So I'm super excited. I love working with other people. I'm a yapper. I can talk about anything and everything. I love talking about this case, and I love talking to other creators who care about this just as much as I do. And then it's a good way for everybody to like meet each other and meet each other's like audience, blah, blah, blah. But Allie's good people. And there's a lot of good people that are working on this. And I want more and more of us to come together and have these opportunities to chat with you guys and to see what we can see. So there's stuff going on and the heat is on. And I want to know like kind of what the week was looking like, what kind of stuff they were doing. That's how we stay 10 steps ahead, right? So thank you for that. Thank you so much for that membership. And I'm so excited to do a lot more of these like membership stuff. Yay. Oh, hi, Matt. Thank you so much. You are a great thinker. Thank you so much from one educator to another. I appreciate that. I'm like tip of the cap, sir. You know. So thank you so much, Matt. I really, really appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Let's see here. Thank you, Ray, so much. Just to show some encouragement. Thank you so much. Is that a British pound? Isn't that like, that's like $100 American. Just kidding. I'm just talking about the depreciation of the dollar. We can save the petrodollar talk for another time. But thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you. That's so kind. Oh, look, Silver Star. Okay, no, that's the one that we clip the corners, right? I think that it is. If I'm not mistaken, that will be the one with the coin clippings. Bye. Okay, thank you, by the way. Quit gaslighting us. Love that. And love your name. Anna, love the work you do. You brought a fun new spice to the investigation. I'm here for it. Let's keep going, Max. We are going absolutely, Max. I don't know if you guys saw, I posted on, oh, good. I just got the notification. Candace live in 30 minutes. So we are wrapping up. We probably have just another few minutes to go here. So don't worry. I'll get you guys out of here because then we're going over to the Candace chat, obviously. But thank you so much. I'm really glad. I wanted to just share really briefly that I have been working on this case since September, I think 12th. And so like, I know that it kind of seems like it's like, oh, wait, you know, I don't know. Somebody was like, are you from the CIA? I was like, no, 1,000,000%. No, not a big fan of the CIA. Long story short, I'm like, guys, no, the reason I like know a bunch of stuff about this is because I have been working on it continually. It is the thing that wakes me up in the morning. It is the thing that keeps me up at night. And I get the feeling a lot of you guys are in that boat too. I'm like, anybody who cares as much as I do, we've been working on it the whole time. So I know that it's not like, sometimes it's like new information, but I'm like, guys, I was searching for Andrew Kolvet's connections internationally in like December. I was emailing Candace and Barron in like October and was like, you need to look at him. I don't like him. There's something about him. There's something about that Johnny Moore, blah, 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 blah. So I've been pulling these threads. Just know that. It's just that as things have continued to develop and more of the pieces are ones that I've just been able to get together, then I come and I tell you guys right away. As soon as I'm like, the light bulb goes off, where, you know, the camera goes on. So thank you so much. Quit gaslighting us. And also thank you so much for the jewels. Oh, floating heart. I'm like, I wish I could see it in the chat. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm like, someone gave me an unk one once and I was like, okay. I'm like, oh, you know what they need is like an auntie one. That would be cute. Oh, see, more coins for my clippings. Thank you. Stop. You're so cute. Oh my gosh. I'm like, listen now, that is the cutest thing ever. You know, you guys know. I love that I saw the Pope do that recently. Bye. I was like, that's so stinking cute. I love it here. Thank you so much, Laughing Disco. Yay. I'm like, I don't know what these, I'm going to learn. I'll ask Allie. She seems like she's knowledgeable on things. So thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Oh my gosh. Hey, listen, that's my favorite one. Wait, do they really have a makeup brush one? Do they really? Or is this like jewels so that I can go buy a new makeup brush? Either way, thank you so much. Yay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Lizzie. You are so kind. You are so kind and generous. Thank you so much for supporting my work. And it means everything. It means everything. Yes, I'm like, this is going directly in that Get Anna a New Mic Fund. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. As someone who gets debilitating migraines too, please accept my prayer for speedy recovery or relief. You're doing phenomenal work. We need you feeling 100%. Thank you so much. We will not be deterred. I have a pretty good regimen. It's happened since I was like maybe 20-ish, you know. But now the new thing is like this weird eye pressure. Anyway, I'm okay. But it did mean that yesterday I was just like, okay, so this is all day yesterday. I'm sitting there and I was like, because I had my phone and I was like, my phone is okay, which not great. But I did turn the dimness down. Like, you know what I mean? I turned down the dimness and I put it on, what's the nighttime mode or whatever. And so I was like, okay, like I'm okay. And so I could like respond and like tweet and blah, blah, blah. And like, and, you know, talk to you guys and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I'm feeling kind of better, you know, kind of went about my normal little X, Y, and Z. And I'd even tried a little bit of the homeopathic remedies that you guys suggest, like salt in your tongue, warm foot bath, and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And I was feeling better. And I was like, okay, golden. I'm about to, come on, we'll go. We'll talk about this stuff. And then I came and I turned on these little lights that I have in here. And I was like, oh, I was like, goodbye. Like, I was like, if I come on with sunglasses on, like that was the only option at that point. I was like, okay, if I'm in here with sunglasses on, like I have seen people stream with sunnies on. And I was like, that is going to, I don't know, because then I won't be able to like look at the name and the title of the airports. I'm already squinting doing that because I can't wear my contacts, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh boy, I was like, we are going to just ask for forgiveness on this one. There's not really a choice. So thank you guys for being patient. And yes, I normally do have a pretty good system. When it gets really hot, I struggle a little bit, and then I don't have an air conditioner in my office. That's okay. We soldier on because it's too important. And you know what? They should be afraid of us even at our 50%. Not afraid. But guess what? You think that I wasn't on my phone still looking at like specific dates? Like I was looking at my ADSB on my phone, of course. Like even if I'm not on camera, guys, every day that I'm not on camera, I'm researching because when we come on, we have stuff to talk about because it's so far ranging, this whole entire thing. So thank you, Lizzie, and thank you for supporting the program. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for your prayers. That is really, honestly, that's the part that means everything. It is. Thank you. When I read that people were praying for me, I was like, we got this. So it means everything. So thank you guys. Thank all of you guys for, being such a wonderful community. It's just remarkable. The Real One Podcast. Oh, hi. I've heard this name before. I sent you a DM about doing a collab. Awesome. I will go and I will check my DMs. Thank you very much, friend. I appreciate that. Aussie for Aussie. Hello. Good day. That wasn't great. I don't do a great one. Does the system show runway length? That's an excellent question. It does not show runway length, but there is a database, Aussie for Aussie. There's a database that will actually show you the different runway lengths for every runway in the United States. I don't think that it consistently works for ones overseas. But what I can also tell you is, yes. Oh, so just for my non-aviation folks, different runway lengths, they mean different things. And so like a big plane, big runway, right? Small plane needs a small runway. They also have different thickness, different material, different monitoring, different towers. It's a very regulated industry in this country. So while that system, ADSB Exchange, does not show it, you can certainly Google it. Also make sure that if you are just like Googling something like that, that you always look up the actual name of the runway itself. For example, I'm like, hold on, really quick detour because we're almost done with reading super chats. But let me just show you guys really, really fast because it's too important to not do that. It's too good of a question. When I get a question, then I'm like, okay. So let's see. Let me hop over to a different runway here. Let's take a little peek ski, shall we? Hold on one second. Okay. So this is just an example. I'm going to show you guys on a random runway. So if you look right here at this image, this is Philly. I think this is Philly International, is it? Yes. Okay, Philly International. So you see how you're seeing, at least two, but I think it's three separate runways. Oh, is this four? I think I have fourth. Wow, look at them. Okay, so see how this one's short? See how this one's medium? This is the long one. So the little plane can go, whatever. It just depends on the day, the traffic, blah, blah, blah. The little one could go here. The medium plane can go there. And then the big plane goes there. That's because different planes need different amounts of distance in order to take off and to land. Now you see, oh wait, it only showed in one size. There we go. So when you close up in on this map in particular, you will be able to see this little information. It's like, I bet you, if you are squinting and holding your phone to your face right now, you can read what this says. What it says is, left 27R. Wait, 9 left, 27 right. What that means is that is the name of that actual specific runway. And they call it left because you're supposed to read it left to right versus right, reading it right to left, right? Okay, so but 9 left, 27 right, you can go and you can look and say what is it that, what aircraft could land on this runway or not. And you can also look and see which runways they're currently using, all that information. But that's just what I wanted to share, is that you should look it up by not only by airport, but the actual runway. Because the other runway there might have been 13 left, 24 right. Like they'll all have different names. And then there is, it's very Googleable. So depending on which one, then you're able to go and find it if you want that information. But just a little simple overview, you can just sit there and go, cool. You know what? They are the short runway, short plane. Right? Oh, hi, Shades. Thank you for becoming a member. I'm so glad that you're here. I love that. That is amazing. I love like meeting new people and finding new friends here. This makes me so happy. Oh, Laura, hi. Thank you for bringing other people into our community. Thank you so much, guys. That is so, so, so kind and wonderful. I love it. Let's see. It's just 0. Thank you. You're doing great. I hope my emails found you well. Oh, guys. Oh, my goodness. So what I did not do yesterday was check my email. But I will check it today. So thank you for sending it. Fort Banana and Statements of Fact. Go Max. I will absolutely keep going Max. I cannot wait to read your email because it says a lot of my favorite things. Statements of Fact, Fort Banana, going Max, like top tier. So I bet it's awesome. Thank you. Hey, Kelly. Thank you for all your hard work. Great investigative journalism. Love your collaboration with other journos. Keep going and God bless you. God bless you too, Kelly. Thank you so much for saying that. And yes, I am so excited. Oh my gosh. Me and Allie were just like yapping on the phone the other day. Like we were just chatting, you know, and that's what I find is that especially with folks, it's like you don't even have to, I'm like, well, maybe Allie does love, you know, football and aviation, maybe, but like, I don't know. I feel like in this community in particular, anyone who has like that, like same spirit for trying to figure out what happened to Charlie, you make fast friends. And it's also really nice in this community to be able to like see other folks and see how hard they work, see the sort of stuff that they're interested in. I'm just naturally like someone who I think it's just from being in medicine for so long. There's almost no one that I can't have like a great conversation with. My patients have ranged from newborns all the way through 102, and you know what, I'm celebrating their birthday either way, so like it's the most natural thing in the world for me to like talk to anybody, find common ground with them. But it's super, super special when it's folks that you know that you're on like a joint mission. I'm like, these are my battle buddies. Hello. Yeah, Team Candace has a lot of battle buddies, let's put it like that. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you. Hi, Simone. What you've uncovered is massive. Amazing work, Anna. Keep safe. I promise you that I will, and thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I do think it's a big deal. I agree. I think it is a big deal enough that the onus has shifted, I would say, in this investigation for us to be figuring out this little thing to them needing to explain. Does that make sense? We as the investigators, the onus is on the individuals now. The onus is on the persons of interest to explain what it is. Otherwise, their silence is going to speak volumes. And the fact that like they went and what's his name, Sean Campbell, like tried to dox me yesterday. I'm like, I'm nobody. And so he like tried to dox me. I know he tried to get Allie files and Leah and like their children and all of this really awful stuff. And I'm like, okay, it's a data point in and of itself. The idea that this person was trying to dox me. I'm like, I don't have anything to hide, but still, like, of course, like as individuals and in this space, like privacy is important, and certainly like for people's children and all of that stuff. So the idea that all of a sudden this information gets found and now all of a sudden that guy's trying to find me, well, data point. Thank you, Simone. I appreciate you. Oh, 1,000 jewels loot box. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is so awesome. I don't know. Again, I do not know what it means, but I think it's awesome. And I really appreciate you. I'm like, do I get to keep the jewels? Do I like jewels better than coins? Probably. They just sound not Erica Kirk style. Not wearing no GG rings here. But, you know. Thank you. Tammy. Hi, Tammy. Hi. How are you? You're doing great. Will you pray with me that God may lead me in starting a podcast? Absolutely. And I hope that other people in the chat that are in this community will join me in saying, absolutely, Tammy. Absolutely. We'll pray with you anytime. And I really, 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 dear God, we ask you that Tammy be granted the strength and the fortitude and the courage that I know is within her to start down this path. I really, really pray that for her. And I know that it is possible, and through you, anything is possible. In your name, amen. I'll keep you in my prayers tonight too. And I know that other folks in here feel the same way. I really, really, really look forward to you sharing that gift. I really look forward to it. We need it more now, more than ever. Now more than ever. So thank you, Tammy. Shannon, thank you so much. Great work. I appreciate you, darling. Thank you. We're trying to solve this thing. That's the intention. I got my uncle alert! Yay! Guys, I got my uncle alert. Oh my gosh, why do I think that that one's so funny? I kept seeing it pop up on Barron's. Like, remember when it first started like popping up and people were like trying to say but I did have my uncle alert moment. I have no idea how long I was just sitting there talking on the wrong screen. So that will be the Tia alert, I guess. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. That's cute. Thank you, Eyes Wide Open. Thank you very much. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, Max. I've been at this being on a broadcast for 2 months. I've been an educator and talking to people for a very long time. And so doing it on camera is a translation of a skill that I have worked on for a long time. But I'm working on it. And I hope that it's gotten better. You guys should have seen the first couple episodes. Oh my goodness. I mean, don't even go back and look. Well, go back and look if you want to, but like, don't even go back and look. But now we are learning so well. We can sit there and go and, I can switch screens. We're getting somewhere. So give us a little bit more time. I'm like, by the time we have this thing solved, we're going to be crushing it. That's my hope. Anyway, but we'll keep going regardless. Oh, cute. I know that one. Thank you so much. Finger heart right back. You guys are so sweet. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much, 1984. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for these little. Oh, Lo. I love seeing Lori. Hi, honey. Floating Heart. Floating Heart 2-2. I'm like, is that this one? It's got to be. There's no way that it's not. I love seeing her little. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I recognize everyone's dog at this point. I'm like, I know that pepperoni. That makes me so happy. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, thank you. Like, I know people do that, but. Oh, and I see that new people have joined our community. I am so thrilled. I am so thrilled that I've seen you guys join our community. I'm so happy. Oh, yay. Love it. I know that you gave me a great point earlier. Thank you guys. And thank you, Camille. Welcome. And thank you so much, Courtney. Welcome. I am so glad that you guys are here now and that we're finding a community here because it means a lot. And also, I truly believe that it's going to take all of us. I get excellent tips from every single one of you all the time. I do check my email. I'm excited. And I get the feeling that we're going to be able to go somewhere. I really do believe it. I absolutely believe that we are going to be able to go somewhere with our community and with our investigation. All right, we've got 15 minutes, guys. I'm going to meet you over at Candace, okay? Yes. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Wait. Before I do that, Baron, Baron's the reason, just so everyone knows, Baron is the reason that I started my podcast. So I love his bravery. I love his genuine search for truth. I was with him episode 1. I am his 378th subscriber. I'm like, that's my claim to fame because no one has, I think, taught me more in the ways that a lot of open source information can lead you to real information and in investigation. So I couldn't agree more. And that's why I think of my little show, I'm like, this is kind of like a little research addendum. Basically what I'm taking is the stuff that I used to do, sitting there, following along, watching him and watching Candace, and I would just sit there and follow along. And I really just thought to myself, like, eventually as time went, I just thought to myself, again, Daisy has my dream job. I'll tell you guys that. But there can only be one Daisy. So I was like, okay, well, at this point, I don't know if we have a choice. We are going to get out there and we are going to just tell him directly. And so here we are. And I think that there's a lot of Americans that feel that way, that we didn't have a choice about staying silent. There's not a choice anymore. This is too important. This mission is too important. It took me a little bit of time to be able to feel like I was comfortable in front of the camera. Still not. That's okay, because it's too important. And that is why, like, don't worry about me. No amount of like people being mean on the internet and blah, blah, blah. It's not going to stop me. This is too important. And when something's that important to you, you don't care about stuff like that, And so I'm like, we soldier on. We're doing it. We're going max. We're going max for Charlie. Oh my gosh. Hi. Thank you so much. Great work. Stay authentic and keep sharing the truth. Christ is king always. I couldn't agree more. Sending love from one obsessed medical person to another. Oh my gosh, you got it. Searching for answers is in our DNA. Prayers for courage and protection. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. I mean, what I'll say is we are at the point now. I was looking for zebras for a long time. I was hearing hoof prints and looking for zebras, right? These are horses. Do you know what I mean? It's a little expression in the medical community. When you hear hooves, you should look for horses, not zebras. Because the thing is that most of the time there is a reasonable, rational explanation for why something is happening. Why is your patient having an increased heart rate? Well, have we ruled out pain? Why is it that your individual seems really tired when they shouldn't be? Well, are they diabetic? There's certain things that before we go looking for some crazy explanation for something, we need to make sure that we are ruling out something that is just a normal, expected thing, right? It's just so my medical folks, you guys will know what I mean by that, right? And what has occurred to me is that when it comes to an operation like this, when it comes to what potentially we would be seeing as far as this, this loop, well, of course, it's like, it's almost boring. It's like, yeah, of course, this is what they're doing. Of course, this is what they're doing. Of course, it's a standard procurement pipeline. Of course, that's why they're all meeting at Fort Banana. Of course, it is that, the exact individuals that we would think have all the motivation in the world. Of course. And so then once it clicks, once you get that blood test back, once you get that blood culture back, once you see the thing that you're like, oh yeah, of course that's what it is. And that's really what it feels like. And so for me, that's kind of like in my mind, I'm like, yep, I do think so. For me, it is part of my working theory. As you guys know, I have a very, very high bar for putting stuff into my working theory of what happened. This has risen to that occasion. So it's in until it's out. You know what I mean? If we find convincing evidence that something else is what's going on, if we find, if there's something that like absolutely rules this out as a potential, I am not ever going to take a theory past the point of the truth. I'm just not going to. I'm not going to hold on to a theory just because I do not care about being right. I care about getting it right. I hope that makes sense. Okay, guys. I'll see you over at Candace. Love you.